Hey, T-Sippers, hey. Hey, T-Sippers, hey. Hey, T-Sippers, hey. Hey, T-Sippers, hey. Ooh, ooh-wee, ooh-wee. Hey, come on in, come on in. Come on in. It is so much going on today, baby. When I say Trump is all over the place, it appears like he is about to lose his mind up in here. Up in here. Y'all gonna make him lose his mind up in here. Up in here. He trying hard, ain't he? He is trying very hard. He is trying to blame everybody. I don't even know where I want to start. I just don't know where I want to start. He trying to now open up cases, release information, point fingers. Baby, all we want is the Epstein files. Now you want to bring up MLK and he ain't say JFK yet. Barack. I mean, why you mad at black people? What we do? Huh? Why you mad at us? Why you, what and where Jeffrey Epstein free and sitting? Oh, yeah, that's the birthday. Oh, my God. I mean, so does he not know that this make him look even worse? That he wants to release this, open up this, but he still does not want to give up that or he knows what's about to come out. I don't know what he doing. He all over the place, ain't he? I mean, when I say he is all over the place, he is all over the place. He is going to need some one of them jackets, them love jackets to make you love on yourself. That them white jackets, you know. Them love me jackets. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Love yourself jackets. Yeah. Where your arms is wrapped around yourself and you in that padded room. Mm-hmm. I think they call them a straight jacket to get your act together, get you right on together, straighten you right on out. What about them roosters? The baby, all them little old sayings, it's coming out. Huh? I promise y'all, I do not know where I want to start. Maybe I need to start at MLK. Trump administration released FBI records on MLK Jr. despite families. Okay, so what? What about it that you think is gonna hurt our feelings? I'm trying to understand what you releasing them, but what do you got to say about what you releasing? You understand? What are you trying to say with the release of the FBI? Release all the records of of Epstein. Release everything. Why you can't do that, Trumpty? Hey, Dante. Why is my system over here sticking? Why would you stick right now? And I just went through the whole process of getting you on. What is this one? So in the meantime, while y'all over there stalling, Trump U.S. attorney gets 86. What does that mean? Last ready for appeal. Oh no, we can't go. What he trying to do, y'all? Why is he stalling? Why him mad? Let me start with this one then. Why him mad? Why him mad?
Hey guys, this is U.S. Senator John Ossoff in Georgia. And before
I got so much juicy stuff to talk about today.
Donald Trump is going to try to continue distracting us away from the fact that he is tied up with Jeffrey Epstein, and he is now posting more and more unhinged things on his Truth Social network. He's posted an AI video of Obama getting arrested.
Ain't that crazy?
He's posted memes of many of his political enemies being arrested. And he also is now attacking Adam Schiff and saying that he should also be arrested. But we all know why he's doing this. To distract from the fact that he's connected to Epstein. It's not working. We're not going to let it work. We're going to talk about the insane stuff. But we're also going to remind you that Donald Trump is implicated in these Epstein files. That's why he's not releasing him. And I also have some clips from Candace Owens, who is saying exactly that it's all a distraction. It's gaslighting. And I think
I can't believe she turned on Trump.
Also coming out just now is an unearthed article of Donald Trump being connected to Sean Diddy and his parties, which we all know were not very family friendly.
He was a part of the baby all parties. You lying. You lying. I mean, I tried to tell y'all. Did I not try to tell y'all for the didn't I tell y'all I was complex. I was hexed. I just, it was like, y'all remember? I was up all night. I went as far as pulling up about Maxine, all of that. You know, what's her pedigree? Who crazy? All of that. But I've been telling y'all, I've been trying to tell y'all Miami was coming and it was going to tie their asses all together. I told y'all last week that party with Epstein, where Trump had on that pink ass tie, and he was dancing and biting his lips and shit and looking and scoping out the females and all of that, grabbing on folks and shit. That he had, I got pictures of him and Diddy with that same get up. So Diddy was at that party. Do y'all not remember? I tried to tell y'all. Baby, he mad, but why you mad at Barack? He wasn't there. Why you mad at Malcolm X? I mean, Martin Luther King. Why you just won't go and turn your own self in? Now you want the files from Hillary. I mean, baby, you are desperate. Desperate. You are desperate. I mean, this is by far the thirstiest you have. And I told you that Maxine lady, that's why AunTeaFee wanted to do some research on her mindset. See, her mindset, because that other girl, Victoria, said that she was worse than Epstein. She was more of a pedophile, PDF file, and all of that than Epstein. Y'all remember? AunTeaFee, why you laughing? Cause I'm finna start here. I'ma start here. Just in case, he start getting mad and making people drop stuff. He's a baby oil. He got a whole baby oil picture. He went to the baby oil party. He a part of the baby oil crew. What? What? Let's go.
Let's put it like that. Now, MAGA is still very, very upset about this, and I have this clip here from Glenn Beck's show. Remember Glenn Beck? And he is trying to calm down a MAGA supporter who is literally crying on the phone.
Crying. He got his people
I
crying.
feel really betrayed, and I feel really, really angry. We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter. Are you guys
Travis
talking
from
about this seriously? And yet,
a Trump supporter named is Travis from South Dakota is on the line. He's crying his behind off because he feels very betrayed by Trump. He is letting his people down. Down, down, AunTeaFee, like way down to the ground. Like the scum of the earth. Yeah, let's go.
I feel really betrayed, and I feel really, really angry. We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter. Are you guys still talking about this seriously? And yet he still talks about the 2020 election fraud. He talks about the Hunter Biden laptop. He talks about all this stuff from 5-6 years ago, and he tells us to move on from the Epstein trial or the Epstein case. People like me will not stop talking about this.
Hey,
I feel so
Purple
betrayed and so
Flower.
angry. This is not what I voted for. I'm concerned about being.
That is not what he voted for. I'm just angry. I just
People like me will not stop talking about this. I feel so betrayed and so angry. This is not what I voted for. I'm concerned about being able to trust Donald Trump to keep his word. In his campaign, he said he was going to let us know all of the facts about this. And now he's saying, go away, don't pay attention to it. These Epstein files, we were told.
he said, why don't I release the emails from Hillary? Why don't I release the Martin Luther King stuff? Why don't I release what else can I release? Huh? Give me some ideas. Can y'all give me some ideas? No foolishness. Just release the Epstein file. All of it. Everything. Every damn thing. Every piece of paper, sticky note, everything. We want it all. Okay?
That there was going to be released. There was this client. People like me will not stop talking about this. I feel so betrayed and so angry. This is not what I voted for. I'm concerned about being able to trust Donald Trump to keep his word. In his campaign, he said he was going to let us know all of the facts about this. And now he's saying, go away, don't pay attention to it. These Epstein files, we were told that there was going to be released. There was this client list that was going to be released. And the fact that it's suddenly gone away and he's trying to gaslight us is like a punch in the gut to MAGA.
Delicious. Absolutely
Don't
delicious.
you love it? I love it
shows
too.
that MAGA is not going to let up.
They
And
ain't
this
going
has
nowhere.
Really complicated his relationship with his base. And many smart Republicans on the right are taking advantage of it, like Candace Owens, who said this after Donald Trump called
I cannot believe
the
it.
Epstein files a hoax in the Oval Office.
Look, I'm happy to be stupid. I'm happy to be foolish. I was very happy to be a person in the basket of the deplorables. The ad hominem stuff doesn't mean anything to me, especially when it comes to a ring that involves harming children. Okay? I just think that this is so ridiculous to try to divide people and make it seem like it's a fight between the left and the right. It's not that.
It's not a
We
fight
are,
between
in
the-
fact, not stupid.
Nope.
We're happy to have you call those names. And when I
Actually, you have made the left and the right have some form of unity. I mean, I don't think they've ever been together without having to be forced to have some type of bipartisanship. I just think that if nothing else, we have positive to say about Donald Trump, Trumpetta, dirty diaper, whatever name you want to give him, the orange thing, the, pumpkin, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty about to have a great fall, or whatever you want to say. I think that this right here has brought some unity for maybe the first time, really. We are on one accord for the sake of someone other than ourselves, for the victims, for true justice, to try to get some form of control over this ex-trafficking, child trafficking, you know. Yeah, so God bless America, and make nobody, let none of us give up on the kids, the victims. You know, let's strive together to bring these PDF filers down. Wait till y'all find out that he was at, did he say all of Diddy's parties? Can y'all believe it? Didn't I tell y'all that that girl did not get fired because of Diddy, but Diddy was involved? Did I not say that? Huh? That all of them, y'all remember I was up all night pondering, trying to make it. I'm like, wait a minute. How was this girl gonna do this? Cause Florida was coming. Didn't I tell y'all that? And lo and behold, it just falls right in front of my face. Yeah. So if it fell in my face, then he know it's coming. He know it's out there. He know it's coming. So all these people talking about Diddy this, he ain't done nothing wrong. He all up in it with him. God dang it. And they was just trying to figure out a way that the judge could keep his ass in jail while they bring this other case up that's going to blow the roof off. The roof is on fire. We don't need no water. We was gonna have a big old party, wasn't we? It was just gonna all come caving down on all of them. We don't care who name is on the list. Again, I repeat, the left side, the right side, and in the middle. We don't care who name is on the list. I can finally say I agree with this woman right here. We don't care. We ain't going nowhere. We want justice for all.
In the Oval Office.
Look, I'm happy to be stupid. I'm happy to be foolish. I was very happy to be a person in the basket of the deplorables. The ad hominem stuff doesn't mean anything to me, especially when it comes to a ring that involves harming children.
A cold cup.
I just think that this is so ridiculous to try to divide people and make it seem like it's a fight between the left and the right. It's not that.
No.
We are, in fact, not stupid.
Unified.
We're happy to have you call those names. And when I hear him say that, it just inspires me more to look into this. I really think that nothing should commit us further to wanting to unpack the Epstein story than the amount of gaslighting that is currently taking place.
I mean, full of gas.
I agree. I want to look into this further. Candace Owens and I agree on that. Like, the fact that Donald Trump is doing all of these digital acrobatics, we'll call it, where he's just trying to throw up shit in the air, hoping something sticks on the wall, tells me that we've got to look at this thing.
We're going in the right direction. Don't give up.
What he is doing. He's called Adam Schiff in big trouble because he falsified loan documents. And as Adam Schiff said on Colbert a couple of days ago, it's kind of a downgrade to go from
loan
saying
documents
that he's committed treason to now just saying he's falsified loan documents. Like, really? This
So,
is what you're going
because
on
he
for?
probably
Falsifying
finna
loan
get hit
documents?
with treason.
Okay, now he's also
Look at him.
posting memes like this with all these different people, James Clapper, John
A
Brennan.
big old kid.
Of course, Barack Obama, James Comey, saying that they all should be arrested. Here they all are in prison.
They call them the
And
Shady Bunch.
something that I found that was really...
How you gonna call somebody the Shady Bunch? The Shady Bunch. And you need to be right here in the middle. Y'all double tap. Double tap the face of your phone like I'm right here, right there in the middle where it says Shady Bunch. I need this picture so I can put him right in the middle. Huh? Huh? The Shady Bunch. Let me let y'all see this. He clowning, y'all. He mad. He desperate. He desperate. Isn't that horrible? The Shady Bunch. But he not on here. How that happen? But okay, if you say so. If you say so. Let's go.
Memes like this with all these different people, James Clapper, John Brennan, of course Barack Obama, James Comey, saying that they all should be arrested. Here they all are in prison fatigues. And something that I found that was really disturbing, frankly, sorry, I guess some of you don't like when I swear, so I'm going to try to not swear, but I like to, I think a F word placed in the appropriate time can be very effective, but I get it. I will try calming down on the F-bombs.
Oh, no, YouTube don't like it.
The effing White House posted this. This is the rapid response account for the White House.
This is the most American quality. Why? Well, let's break it down. First, it's built. Looking to hire medical staff.
Oh, wow.
Tech support, kitchen help, freight managers, unit.
Posting that Donald Trump's political enemies should be arrested. Like, we are so far past the looking glass on this. Donald Trump also posted
his
an
political
AI video account for time can be very effective, but I get it. I will try calming down on the F-bombs. But the effing White House posted this. This is the rapid response account for the White House, posting that Donald Trump's political enemies should be arrested. Like, we are so far past the looking glass.
So everybody his enemies because we want the list.
AI video of, oh, that's not it. And I'll show this to you too. He posted a woman partially clothed. Of all the times to post that. But first, Donald Trump posted this video of an AI video. It's AI of Obama getting arrested. Now, I can't play it with sound because I will get a copyright strike because it has that stupid YMCA song behind it. But here it is without the music. Perhaps the editor could put some fun music behind it. Fun music?
What you put
maybe not fun
DT
music,
and the
some
others
music?
don't feel I hurt and pain. No, they don't. Hey, Big Pressure. Don't come in here making excuses for these PDFers. The Shady Bunch. Why he so mad at Barack?
It's just so disturbing that he's doing that. It's
Why he so hot at Barack?
I mean, yes, Donald Trump was arrested. No, we never saw him in handcuffs, and he was prosecuted by a jury of his peers. This is totally different. Joe Biden just let that process happen.
But that was true, though. He was arrested. He did have to turn himself. He is a convicted felon.
Donald Trump was arrested. No, we never saw him in handcuffs, and he was prosecuted by a jury of his peers. This is totally different. Joe Biden just let that process happen. He never got involved. He wasn't involved. Donald Trump is actively trying to target his political enemies by using the force of the law, and it's very disturbing. And he also posted this.
He needs to be mad at himself. He was the one hanging out with Epstein.
Charged with, or you're being alleged
but
to have.
baby, wait till y'all hear the words that come out of his mouth that he was hanging with Diddy at them parties. He was always invited. He was on the VIP list. Ain't no party like a P. Diddy party. Can y'all believe it? I told y'all, birds of a feather flock together. He was proud. Oh, yeah. He was proud to be on the VIP. taking that coochie list. I tried to tell y'all. Y'all didn't want to believe me. But hold my mule. Let me get on past this. Let's go.
Sex crimes. I don't know if I would have posted this.
I ain't showing the cost.
What are you doing? You're
A
79.
snake.
You're
A
the president of the
snake.
United States. You're posting like, it's just, what are you doing? It's so.
A half-naked female catching the state.
It's just also beneath your age, but like, maybe not. You're Donald Trump. Now, the reason why he's doing this.
No, you ain't never heard him admit to being on the VIP.
Of P. Diddy.
Hold on. I thought it.
Donald Trump is implicated.
Oh. I thought it was someplace else. It's here. It's here. Let's go.
Now, this is an article that came out from Moto Magazine, written by Maureen Dowd. Oh my God, Maureen Dowd from New York Times. The important bit is this. It says, I am just very popular with...
Let me take it off so y'all can see his words. This was, of course, not. He didn't say that like recently, but he damn sure said it. I'm just very popular. He's so arrogant. I always got to be included, you know, with the black populace. What is populace? What? He said when Puff, he called him Puff Daddy, has a party. He called him Puff Daddy. So maybe that's where Puff got that, call him Daddy. When Puff Daddy, he go way back, don't he? When was Puff Daddy? That was long. Has a party when Russell Simmons have a party. I forgot about Uncle Russ. He went to Puff parties and Uncle pedophile 14-year-old wife, 15 Kamora has a party. I'm the person they call. What? He used a kind of ego. They blocking it. Let's see if he tell it. Oh, let me go up there. A favorable mention in a Palm Beach publication about a club he has started at Mar-a-Lago. I'll go up there. The number of working class guys who call out to him. Okay, let's just keep listening. Come on. Back that thing up. Back that thing up. Back that thing.
Implicated with P. Diddy. Now, this is an article that came out from Moto Magazine, written by Maureen Dowd. Oh my God, Maureen Dowd from New York Times. The important bit is this. It says, I am just very popular with the black populace. There, that is just problematic. Secondly, he says, when Puff Daddy has a party, when Russell Simmons has a party, I'm the person they call. Interesting. Puff Daddy calls you. We, of course, know that Puff Daddy was found guilty with sex crimes, and, of course, now Donald Trump. We have this article here.
And Russell Simmons, too.
Those Diddy parties happen at Mar-a-Lago. I wonder if Donald Trump was there for them. I guess we'll find out eventually.
Yep.
Now, with that Obama distraction, they posted about it.
Hey, Max. They partied together. They partied together. Thank you, Max to the Boogie. Every cricket pressure, you kill me. You just can't just say dang.
P. Diddy, where Donald Trump is implicated with P. Diddy. Now, this is an article that came out from Moto Magazine, written by Maureen Dowd. Oh my God, Maureen Dowd from New York Times. The important bit is this. It says, I am just very popular with the black populace. There, that is just problematic. Secondly, he says, when Puff Daddy has a party, when Russell Simmons has a party, I'm the person they call. Interesting.
He on the VIP.
Puff Daddy calls you. We, of course, know that Puff Daddy was found guilty with sex crimes, and, of course, now
And now he trying to
this
sue
article here
somebody.
saying that those Diddy parties happened at Mar-a-Lago. I wonder if Donald Trump was there for them. I guess we'll
They
find out
happen at
eventually.
Mar-a-Lago.
Now, we have this article here saying that those Diddy parties happened at Mar-a-Lago. I wonder if Donald Trump was there for them. I guess we'll find out eventually. Now, with that Obama distraction, they posted about
What
it.
type of
Tulsi Gabbard
president?
posted about it, and
What type
MAGA,
of president?
MAGA was saying,
What type of
what
convicted
about
felon
Epstein and his
president
best
did
friend
y'all
Donald?
put in
MAGA has
office?
been saying this. They're getting that this is also a distraction. It is a distraction.
Absolutely.
So we're not going to let it distract us. We're going to keep talking about it. We're not going to let up. And if you want to hear more about it, subscribe here.
Absolutely.
So more people see it. And I just want to end with this because I thought this was incredible. So yesterday I posted this video about James Tallarico on Joe Rogan. And as you can see here, it got more than 500,000 views. And Joe Rogan's podcast, with 20 million subscribers, we beat them.
Hey,
We
Joseph.
beat Joe Rogan in terms of views of these clips. Now, I wish more people see this. I hope more people do see this on Joe Rogan's platform. We are the number. I hope more people do. My manager for beating CBS News for being a big part of it. Again,
Yeah, hold up.
like a
Shout out to
video.
you,
If you're not
Keith.
subscribed, please consider subscribing.
Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. Let me go over here before I forget, because this already over here. Oh, yeah. This one right here. Ooh, they sure look close and cozy, didn't it? Ooh, were they going out on a date? Woo! Huh? Yeah, hold on. Hold my mule. Hold my mule. Now, this was dated July the 20th, 2025. Is she working up a deal, y'all? Is she working up a deal? Huh? Why are they talking about her with some special conditions and shit? Is she finna tell? Is this why? Oh, Trumpster, Trumpy messy. Is this why he panicking? Said must abide to strict release conditions. I mean, are they finna? Baby, listen. Something going on. She got an orange lipstick on. She was walking and jogging the other day. She dropping, you know. She working with something. She doing something. Okay, let's listen. He over there panicking. He said, please stop worrying about these two right here and let's investigate something else. Let's dig up the past on something else. Please let this be. I'm not going to be able to come up with enough excuses, so I got to stall y'all out. Yeah. Let's listen. Special update. Let's hear this.
Family. No one else. Not even us. What's up? Message privately with everyone.
Hey everyone, it's Jason Beckerman from Last Days. In January 2024, we published an episode of Last Days examining the mysterious death of Jeffrey Epstein, what we knew, what we may never know, and what it all means. The core takeaways from that episode were as follows. First, Epstein had previously exhibited suicidal behavior and had been placed on...
Can y'all hear this?
...following an alleged suicide attempt in July 2019. However, in the weeks leading up to his death, he had reportedly been in better spirits. His attorney claimed he was optimistic about his legal defense and confident he would prevail at trial. Second, serious protocol...
Can y'all hear?
...the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan, where Epstein was being held.
This is called Last Days.
No one can see or hear your personal messages. Whether it's a voice call, message, or sending a password.
What did I
to
just
WhatsApp,
do?
It's all just this. So whether you're sharing the streaming
What did I
password in the
just do?
family chat, or trading those late night voice messages that could basically become a podcast, your personal messages stay between you, your friends, and your family. No one else.
A commercial.
Not even us.
Bear with me.
WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone.
Hey everyone, it's Jason Beckerman from Last Days. In January 2024, we published an episode of Last Days examining the mysterious death of Jeffrey Epstein, what we knew, what we may never know, and what it all means. The core takeaways from that episode were as follows. First, Epstein had previously exhibited suicidal behavior and had been placed on suicide watch following an alleged suicide attempt in July 2019. However, in the weeks leading up to
Can
his
y'all
death, he
hear?
had reportedly been in better spirits. His attorney claimed he was optimistic about his
Hi,
legal defense
Shelbert.
and confident he
Ivan.
would prevail at trial. Second, serious protocol failures plagued the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan, where Epstein was being held. Despite his prior suicide attempt, Epstein was removed from suicide watch shortly after and was left alone in his cell on the night of his death, a direct violation of procedure, which typically requires inmates at risk of self-harm to be housed with a cellmate. Additionally, he was given cloth bedsheets despite the availability of paper or rubber alternatives that cannot easily be used for hanging. Third, Epstein was widely believed to possess damaging information about some of the world's most powerful individuals, including financiers, politicians, and royalty. With his death, many of those secrets likely died with him. Despite these troubling circumstances, multiple investigations, including from the New York City Medical Examiner, the FBI, and the Department of Justice, concluded that Epstein's death was a suicide by hanging. No conclusive evidence emerged to support foul play. And that's where the story remained until the summer of 2025. In an effort to reinforce the official suicide narrative, the U.S. Department of Justice released a short surveillance video showing no suspicious activity outside Epstein's cell during the critical hours of August 9th to 10th, 2019, when he apparently killed himself. But the release raised more questions than it answered. DOJ officials acknowledged that they possessed hundreds of hours of additional video footage and thousands of pages of related documents, none of which they intended to make public. That revelation sparked renewed demands for transparency, especially given the long-standing conspiracy theories implicating powerful figures such as former President Bill Clinton and current President Donald Trump, both of whom had past ties to Epstein. Notably, while no credible evidence has linked either man to Epstein's alleged crimes, Trump has previously pledged, while campaigning in 2024, to release the full Epstein files if re-elected. Yet despite mounting public pressure, Trump has so far refused to order the full release. This refusal has triggered a rare backlash from within his own political base, including some prominent Republican allies and media voices traditionally aligned with the MAGA movement. The central questions now being asked, and so far unanswered, are: why has Trump gone back on his promise to release the Epstein files, and what's in those files that he doesn't want the public to see? In recent days, President Trump has hinted that some materials may eventually be released, but to date, that has not happened, and the cloud of secrecy surrounding Epstein's death continues to darken. This is a special update edition of Last Days, Jeffrey Epstein.
Businessman Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in New York Saturday on federal charges related to sex trafficking.
Epstein is expected to appear in federal court in Lower Manhattan tomorrow. His mansion on East 71st Street was raided early Sunday morning as agents hauled out multiple bags of evidence from
the raid today. Our cameras there at Jeffrey Epstein's private island.
Jeffrey Epstein today pleading not guilty after federal prosecutors in New York revealed many disturbing details.
Did you ever tell him your age? Yeah, he knew very well my age.
Politically connected, multimillionaire allegedly operated a sex trafficking ring.
Some breaking news right now. Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein has taken his own life.
in prison.
His outrage grows tonight. Why wasn't anyone watching Epstein in jail? How was he allowed to take his own life?
For 36 days, from July 6th to August 10th, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein lived as inmate number 76318-054 at the Metropolitan Correction Center in Lower Manhattan, while he awaited trial on federal sex trafficking charges. The MCC is notorious, both for housing some of the world's most famous criminals, including John Gotti, ADOLPH, and El Chapo, and because of its horrific living conditions. Cells crawling with roaches and rats, raw sewage seeping up through antiquated pipes, and cafeteria food often not fit for human consumption. Epstein tried as much as he could to use his immense fortune, at least $500 million and possibly much, much more, to reduce his suffering. He initially tried to persuade a judge he should be allowed to await trial at home under 24-hour surveillance, paid for at his own expense, but when that was rejected, he arranged for his team of lawyers to visit him in private meeting rooms for up to 12 hours a day, where he could sit in relative comfort and eat food from vending machines meant for visitors. He also avoided the risks of being preyed upon by other inmates, something common for accused child sex offenders, by depositing money into their commissary accounts. But as the weeks went by and Epstein's efforts to work the system bore little fruit, and the prospect he would spend the rest of his life in prison became more real, he grew depressed. He stopped bathing and began sleeping on his jail cell floor instead of in his bunk.
Oh.
On July 23rd, 17 days into his incarceration, Epstein was found unconscious in his cell with a bedsheet around his neck. The incident was investigated as a suicide attempt, though guards and inmates were skeptical, accusing Epstein of faking the injuries to gain sympathy from a judge. He was transferred to a suicide holding area where inmates are kept isolated and forced to sleep on rubber mattresses with no bed sheets or other material that could be used for self-harm.
Oh, wow.
After a few days of this, he suddenly insisted he was fine, and his lawyers successfully lobbied to have him return to his usual cell, a departure from prison policy which mandates a longer stay after an attempted suicide. But after his return from suicide holding, things apparently started to look up for Epstein. On July 26th, he met with a new attorney named David Schoen, who was poised to join the legal team. Epstein was buoyed by the discussion and, according to Schoen, grew optimistic he may be able to beat the charges against him. Epstein, perhaps as much to convince himself as the people to whom he was talking, even claimed he was living, quote, a wonderful life, and denied having ongoing thoughts of dying in prison. Epstein was quoted as saying to a prison psychologist that he had no interest in killing himself. According to the New York Times, Epstein referred to himself as a coward who did not like pain, saying he would not do that to himself. And yet, despite all of that, at 6:30 a.m. on the morning of August 10th, Epstein's body was found hanged in his cell, with a long strip of torn bedsheet wrapped around his neck, with the other end tied to the top of his bunk. The guards performed CPR, and he was rushed to New York Downtown Hospital a few minutes away, but it was of no use. The medical examiner later issued his finding that Epstein had taken his own life. But had he? And if so, how and why? In the days and weeks following Epstein's death, the official story of what happened started to unravel, and in its place, conspiracy theories emerged. Internet sleuths, spurred by the discoveries that prison officials had lied about the details of the night of the death, and the prison's subsequent refusal to turn over relevant details to federal investigators, smelled blood in the water. And even the most reputable news organizations were stunned to learn that the day before Epstein died, August 9th, his cellmate was transferred out of the facility, leaving Epstein alone in a cell, a direct violation of prison policy for someone who so recently attempted suicide. But the most complicating and unavoidable fact of them all is that Jeffrey Epstein took with him to the grave secrets only he knew about the sexual indiscretions of some of the richest and most powerful men in the world, men who had every motive and, presumably, every resource to keep him quiet. Jeffrey Epstein was 66 years old. I'm Jason Beckerman.
I'm Derek Kaufman.
This is Last Days, Jeffrey Epstein.
The factual allegations leveled against Jeffrey Epstein are well documented and, of course, extremely disturbing, so we're not going to rehash them here. What is important to note for our purposes, however, is that at the time of Epstein's death, he was under indictment for trafficking underage girls, as well as conspiring with his longtime friend, lover, and business associate, Ghislane Maxwell, to do the same. The evidence compiled against him by federal prosecutors was overwhelming, involving the testimony of his victims and many corroborating witnesses, as well as flight logs and other documentation that seemed to establish beyond any doubt that Jeffrey Epstein was a serial sex trafficker and sexual abuser. If convicted, the 66-year-old Epstein faced a maximum of 45 years in federal prison, so effectively a life sentence if he were given the maximum. And given his notoriety and his prior conviction in Florida in 2008 for procuring minors to engage in prostitution, it was exceedingly likely that the sentencing judge would show him no leniency. Moreover, if Epstein's pretrial stint at the Metropolitan Correction Center showed him anything, it was that he was not a man who would survive well in prison. And his repeated thwarted efforts to manipulate the system must have frustrated him deeply. Epstein had lost what sociopaths like him value most, control. And it was the one time in his life that his astronomical wealth and ineffable charm couldn't get him out of the trouble he was in.
Like Trump.
Epstein knew a conviction was likely, and the result would be tantamount to a death sentence. Therefore, despite his claim that he was living, quote, a wonderful life in prison, it's only logical to assume that when he laid in that cell late at night, With only his thoughts to occupy him, suicide must have been something he pondered. And so, when prison officials issued a press release on August 10th, 2019, saying they'd found Epstein's body with a sheet tied around his neck during one of the routine bed checks they were required to perform every half hour, there was little suspicion that that was not the case. It was assumed that Epstein had taken the easy way out, that dying in prison right away was preferable to living the next few decades in hellish conditions. But over the next several weeks, fissures began to emerge in the story that the public had been fed, and questions were raised about how and why one of the most notorious prisoners in the country, who had so recently been released from suicide watch, was ever left in a position where he could kill himself. And it all happened before he could potentially provide testimony about the misconduct of many of the world's richest and most powerful men.
The first shoe to drop was the discovery that Epstein had not, in fact, been discovered during one of the routine every half-hour bed checks, but at 6:30 the following morning when breakfast was brought to the inmates. By that time, Epstein had been dead for approximately 2 hours, mathematically disproving the bed check story. Indeed, at about the very same time Epstein was taking his own life, sometime between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, the two prison guards tasked with watching him, Tova Noel and Michael Thomas, were found to have been periodically shopping online, snoozing, and horsing around just a few feet from Epstein's cell. Both guards were later charged with abdication of duty, but in a surprise move, all charges were later dropped on the purported grounds that the Metropolitan Correction Center and the Federal Bureau of Prisons were really the ones to blame because chronic personnel shortages necessitated that prison guards work up to 16 hours a day, compromising their ability to do their jobs effectively.
Jason, I wanted to pause here. Prisons are places that are very, very regimented for all prisoners, but there are lapses by employees all the time, and you hear about these. What always struck me about this case is this is a very, very high-profile prisoner. They have a few of them. El Chapo is a very high-profile prisoner. You couldn't imagine this kind of lapse because watching one or two people very closely is achievable and is done all the time.
You're absolutely right. This is not Orange is the New Black. This is not some sort of local county prison where bad things happen all the time.
And guards turn their heads.
This is the most notorious federal prison in the country, and for that reason, it is sent the biggest criminals, right? The El Chapos, also Ramzi Youssef, the original World Trade Center bomber, was housed there as well. They get the baddest of them all, and the guards are the most highly trained, the most highly paid, and their standards are the most rigorous.
And the coverage was round the clock on Jeffrey Epstein, and the thoughts of, or the coverage of what's in his little black book, that was out there while he was alive, and then for him to die under such mysterious circumstances is really what prompted all of this.
It really was, and it gets worse from there. The revelation next came that Epstein had been prematurely released from suicide hold a couple weeks earlier after he was found unconscious with the sheet around his neck. Prison policy apparently required Epstein to still be on suicide hold or, once transferred back to his cell, be subject to around-the-clock surveillance without access to the implements of self-harm.
So it was around his neck. It didn't take him out that time.
Citing evidence, which the Bureau of Prisons had not disclosed, that Epstein's cellmate had been transferred to another facility the day before Epstein died. This is so important because people who are at risk of suicide, he was identified as one such person, they're never supposed to be alone. And as strange as it is that you would house them with another inmate, thinking that would mitigate the risk of suicide, that's what the evidence shows, that other people in the cell do reduce that risk. It takes a while to build the contraption. Epstein's sheets were tied to the bed frame above him. The roommate's going to see that and potentially call out to a guard to stop it. That's why the policy is don't leave them alone. But Epstein was nevertheless very purposefully left alone. His old cellmate was transferred out, and nobody else was transferred in.
And had access to these implements. I mean, this is Suicide Watch 101. This
right.
is not new, novel stuff.
Yeah, and this disclosure, Derek, really made the guards' failure to routinely check on Epstein throughout the night all the more inexplicable. They knew he was alone, but they still didn't do the checking. And this is a guy who had just tried to commit suicide a couple of weeks earlier, or at least they thought that he had. These were, of course, enormous screw-ups, and federal prosecutors and FBI agents who had worked on the Epstein case for years seized. But it was much more than just their time that was squandered with Epstein's death. It was the loss of the only person who could comprehensively speak to Epstein's relationships with his powerful and wealthy cadre of friends.
See, my thing with
People like
that,
Presidents
even
Clinton
listening
and Trump,
to this,
Prince Andrew, countless other politicians, actors, business tycoons, and academics.
Richest and most powerful men.
The first shoe to drop was the discovery that Epstein had not...
Hold on, pressure. My thing, listening to this, the guards. Okay, so the guards that was playing around were supposed to be watching. They was charged and their charges was dropped. Why was they charges dropped for real? Did they cover up? Or they sworn to secrecy, that part. Because what they just said just a minute ago, let me back it up, is that once they went in there, they found him and something was wrapped around, okay, his neck. Okay, hold on. And then they later said that it made it seem like that didn't take him out and that he went to get to the hospital, got some help or something, and he said that he was okay. So let me back it up. Let's play that again.
In fact, been discovered during one of the routine every half-hour bed checks. But at 6:30 the following morning, when breakfast,
Epstein knew a conviction was likely, and the result would be 10. If convicted, the 66-year-old Epstein faced a maximum of 45
Let's listen
years
what I
in
good
federal
here.
prison, so effectively a life sentence if he were given the maximum. And given his notoriety and his prior conviction in Florida in 2008 for procuring minors to engage in prostitution, it was exceedingly likely that the sentencing judge would show him no leniency. Moreover, if Epstein's pretrial stint at the Metropolitan Correction Center showed him anything, it was that he was not a man who would survive well in prison. And his repeated thwarted efforts to manipulate the system must have frustrated him deeply. Epstein had lost what sociopaths like him value most, control. And it was the one time in his life that his astronomical wealth and ineffable charm couldn't get him out of the trouble he was in. Epstein knew a conviction was likely, and the result would be tantamount to a death sentence. Therefore, despite his claim that he was living, quote, a wonderful life in prison, it's only logical to assume that when he laid in that cell late at night, with only his thoughts to occupy him, suicide must have been something he pondered. And so, when prison officials issued a press release on August 10th, 2019, saying they'd found Epstein's body with a sheet tied around his neck during one of the routine bed checks they were required to perform every half hour, there was little suspicion that that was not the case. It was assumed that Epstein had taken the easy way out, that dying in prison right away was preferable to living the next few decades in hellish conditions. But over the next several weeks, fissures began to emerge in the story that the public had been fed, and questions were raised about how and why one of the most notorious prisoners in the country, who had so recently been released from suicide watch, was ever left in a position where he could kill himself. And it all happened before he could potentially provide testimony about the misconduct of many of the world's richest and most powerful men.
the first shoe to drop was the discovery that Epstein had not, in fact, been discovered during one of the routine every half-hour bed checks, but at 6:30 the following morning when breakfast was brought to the inmates. By that time, Epstein had been dead for approximately 2 hours, mathematically disproving the bed check story. Indeed, at about the very same time Epstein was taking his own life, sometime between 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, the two prison guards tasked with watching him, Tova Noel and Michael Thomas, were found to have been periodically shopping online, snoozing, and horsing around just a few feet from Epstein's cell. Both guards were later charged with abdication of duty, but in a surprise move, all charges were later dropped on the purported grounds that the Metropolitan Correction Center and the Federal Bureau of Prisons were really the ones to blame because chronic personnel shortages necessitated that prison guards work up to 16 hours a day, compromising their ability to do their jobs effectively.
Jason, I wanted to
What does that have to do with shopping online?
Very, very regimented for all prisoners, but there are lapses by
what does that have to do with
you hear about these
shopping online and horse
about
playing?
This case is this is a very, very high-profile prisoner. They have a few of them. El Chapo is a very high-profile prisoner. You couldn't imagine this kind of lapse because watching one or two people very closely is achievable and is done all the time.
You're absolutely right. This is not Orange is the New Black. This is not some sort of local county prison where bad things happen all the time.
And guards turn their heads.
This is the most notorious federal prison in the country, and for that reason, it is sent the biggest criminals, right? The El Chapos, also Ramzi Youssef, the original World Trade Center bomber, was housed there as well. They get the baddest of them all, and the guards are the most highly trained, the most highly paid, and their standards are the most rigorous.
And the coverage was round the clock on Jeffrey Epstein, and the thoughts of, or the coverage of what's in his little black book, that was out there while he was alive, and then for him to die under such mysterious circumstances is really what prompted all of this.
It really was, and it gets worse from there. The revelation next came that Epstein had been prematurely released from suicide hold a couple weeks earlier after he was found unconscious with the sheet around his neck. Prison policy apparently required Epstein to still be on suicide hold or, once transferred back to his cell, be subject to around-the-clock surveillance without access
after
to the
being found, so they did say after being found with a sheet around his neck, he was released to go back. Did
y'all
hear that?
Epstein's cellmate had been transferred to another facility the day before Epstein died. This is so important because people who are at risk of suicide, he was identified as one such person, they're never supposed to be alone. We're really the ones to blame because chronic personnel shortages necessitated that prison guards work up to 16 hours a day, compromising their ability to do their jobs effectively.
Jason, I wanted to pause here. Prisons are places that are very, very regimented for all prisoners, but there are lapses by employees all the time, and you hear about these. What always struck me about this case is this is a very, very high-profile prisoner. They have a few of them. El Chapo is a very high-profile prisoner. You couldn't imagine this kind of lapse because watching one or two people very closely is achievable and is done all the time.
You're absolutely right. This is not Orange is the New Black. This is not some sort of local county prison where bad things happen all the time.
And guards turn their head.
This is the most notorious federal prison in the country, and for that reason, it is sent the biggest criminals, right? The El Chapos, also Ramzi Youssef, the original World Trade Center bomber, was housed there as well. They get the baddest of them all, and the guards are the most highly trained, the most highly paid, and their standards are the most rigorous.
And the coverage was round the clock on Jeffrey
Yes.
Epstein, and the thoughts of, the coverage of what's in his little black book, that was out there while he was alive, and then for him to die under such mysterious circumstances is really what prompted all of this.
It really was, and it gets worse from there. The revelation next came that Epstein had been prematurely released from suicide hold a couple of weeks earlier after he was found unconscious with the sheet around his neck. Prison policy apparently required Epstein to still be on suicide hold or, once transferred back to his cell, be subject to around-the-clock surveillance without access to the implements of self-harm like bed sheets. Further, the Washington Post broke a story citing evidence which the Bureau of Prisons had not disclosed that Epstein's cellmate had been transferred to another facility the day before Epstein died. This is so important because people who are at risk of suicide, he was identified as one such person, they're never supposed to be alone. And as strange as it is that you would house them with another inmate, thinking that would mitigate the risks of suicide, that's what the evidence shows, that other people in the cell do reduce that risk. It takes a while to build the contraption. Epstein's sheets were tied to the bed frame above him. The roommate's going to see that and potentially call out to a guard to stop it. That's why the policy is don't leave them alone. But Epstein was nevertheless very purposefully left alone. His old cellmate was transferred out, and nobody else was transferred in.
And had access to these implements. I mean, this is Suicide Watch 101. This
Right.
is not new, novel stuff.
Yeah, and this disclosure, Derek, really made the guards' failure to routinely check on Epstein throughout the night all the more inexplicable. They knew he was alone, but they still didn't do the checking. And this is a guy who had just tried to commit suicide a couple of weeks earlier, or at least they thought that he had. These were, of course, enormous screw-ups, and federal prosecutors and FBI agents who had worked on the Epstein case for years seethed. But it was much more than just their time that was squandered with Epstein's death. It was the loss of the only person who could comprehensively speak to Epstein's relationships with his powerful and wealthy cadre of friends. People like Presidents Clinton and Trump, Prince Andrew, and countless other politicians, actors, business tycoons, and academics, all of whom were known to have spent considerable time with Epstein, some even on his private island in the Caribbean, where most of Epstein's criminal conduct occurred. That is not to say that all these people, or even
Y'all,
most of them,
did
shared
Trump
in
let
illegal activities with
Epstein
but some
out?
of them certainly did.
Did he
Prosecutors' best
move
chance to
him?
bring them to justice was now lost.
And all of these
To
factors,
avoid
the
him
guards'
exposing him?
malfeasance, the prison's departures from protocols, the last
Is that
transfer of his
possible?
cellmate, each of which led directly to Epstein's death and the loss of a potential witness against many rich and powerful men, sparked public suspicion of conspiracies
Somebody paid
and cover-ups.
them to look the other
Making
way and
matters
drop their
worse,
charges.
federal investigators
Is
complained
it
to
possible
openly the
that
Bureau of
Trump
Prisons was
moved him?
refusing to provide them with even the most basic information that would allow them to properly investigate the matter, an allegation the BOP denied. It didn't take long for the internet to get wind of what was going on, and for rumors of conspiracies and cover-ups to gain attention. Then President Donald Trump retweeted videos suggesting that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were responsible for Epstein's death, and from there, Republican senators, most notably Ben Sasse of Nebraska, called for immediate investigations, a mantle right-wing media groups were only too happy to pick up. The left fired back, reminding President Trump of his 2002 comments to New York Magazine that Epstein was, quote, a terrific guy, adding that, quote, it is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Nevertheless, the speculation remained what it was, unfounded theories rooted in various political agendas without much mainstream appeal. But then Democratic New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio went on Fox News to give the speculation some bipartisan heft, saying he believed the official explanation of Epstein's death was just, quote, too convenient to be believed.
This is way too convenient. This makes no sense. He's one of the most prominent prisoners in America at that point. He had either attempted suicide previously or been assaulted. Either way, it's the same reality. He needed to be watched 24 hours a day. It's one of the premier federal facilities in the country. It belongs to the Justice Department. Come on. How on earth do they miss this? One thing I do not think is possible here is just pure traditional human error. That just, some guard fell asleep or someone didn't cover their shift. That's the one thing I would rule out given the prominence of the case and the nature of the situation, which means something else happened. I don't know what that something else is, but it sure as hell needs to be investigated.
Derek, these comments from de Blasio transformed what were just originally rumors of wrongdoing in Epstein's case from internet chatter and political talking points into really mainstream news. Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, and more all ran primetime stories looking into the rumors. Congressional committees interviewed witnesses and conducted inquiries. The Metropolitan Correctional Center and the Bureau of Prisons conducted internal reviews. And then the big boys got involved, with the FBI and the Department of Justice launching parallel investigations into what happened and why. It's really easy to see why there's so much interest, right? The mysterious nature of the death, so many missteps, coupled with the obvious motive of protecting the rich and famous from disclosure.
This is catnip. We talk a lot about Occam's razor, right? We talk about what is the most reasonable, simplest explanation for something that happened. And I think initially the thought is he committed suicide. His life had been absolutely torn asunder. This was a man who was massively wealthy, 9 figures of wealth. He dined with presidents, and all of a sudden he's sitting in a facility facing a sentence that is effectively a life sentence.
And
never
remember,
see the light.
He's trying to work the system every way he can. He's coming up against brick walls at every step. So at some point, he's getting more and more resigned to the idea that this is what's going to be.
Yeah, and on some level, he knew, wow, all of my misdeeds, there's a lot of evidence of them as well.
Yeah.
There's flight logs and so forth. So he knew it was all coming apart. But it's really hard to accept that such a high-profile prisoner with so many secrets, for the average person looking at those facts to not think something nefarious is afoot.
Yeah.
Something happened that's more than just a story. I'm not a tinfoil hat conspiracy-minded person by nature.
You and I are definitely not people like that. We believe sort of the most rational thing, which is suicide. But here,
I had a lot of questions.
One of the other elements is Epstein had been known to use what he knew about famous people to not quite bribe them, but to get favors from them. It's something that was long rumored, and there's some evidence, not the big boys that we've talked about, but some smaller people.
Light blackmail.
And some light blackmail, right. And so I think, knowing that history, the folks who he knew stuff about, and there were plenty of them. We don't know who they are, but some of those people that went to the island, right?
Well, one of the names constantly brought up is Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton, whatever you think of the Clintons, there have been rumors that have chased them for decades about their nefarious doings. You remember Vince Foster.
Yeah.
And some of these have absolutely no grounding in fact. But they are stories that follow them around. So when you connect the Clintons to Jeffrey Epstein's mysterious death, people are going to...
And of course, Prince Andrew, who's been known forever to be
Hey, Brian.
a dirty guy, and then he's at the island as well. So, it's hard to simply sort of turn a blind eye to the realities of who he had information and dirt on. In 2019, the FBI and the Department of Justice launched those comprehensive parallel investigations into the custody, care, and supervision of Jeffrey Epstein and the allegations that he may have been a victim of foul play. The final reports on those investigations were released last year. Taken together, here are those findings.
So the findings are like this. Jeffrey Epstein died as a result of the Metropolitan Correction Center's systematic failures to ensure the proper and safe housing of its inmate. In particular, first, the MCC staff had significant breaches of protocols and dereliction of their duties. Among other things, these failures resulted in Epstein being unmonitored and alone in his cell with an excessive amount of bed linens from approximately 10:40 p.m. on August 9th until he was discovered hanged in his locked cell on August 10th at approximately 6:30 a.m. Second, the MCC staff failed to ensure that Epstein was assigned a cellmate, despite the fact that he was placed on suicide watch following his July 23rd suicide attempt. It was revealed at this time that an MCC psychologist had previously recommended that Epstein needed to be housed with an appropriate cellmate. And yet, on August 9th, 2019, after the MCC staff transferred Epstein's cellmate, they took no steps to ensure that he was assigned a new cellmate. Third, the MCC staff failed to undertake required measures designed to ensure that Epstein was accounted for and safe on the night he died. And yet, despite all of this, both the FBI and the Department of Justice stated they uncovered no evidence pointing to any criminal conduct in connection with Epstein's death. He had, they concluded, simply killed himself. And as frustrating and perhaps disappointing as these findings were to some people, no one, not the internet sleuths, the mainstream media, or even politicians with their axes to grind, have been able to uncover any evidence to the contrary. So You lay out these findings, and it sounds like a lapse that allowed a man who was suicidal, and was suicidal as recently as late July, wasn't watched, didn't have a cellmate with him, had access to bed linens, and took the opportunity to kill himself. And people don't want to accept that.
No, but
those are the
they don't want to accept it because, as Bill de Blasio said, it's too convenient.
Yeah.
The one night he has no cellmate, the one night the guards aren't watching him.
Hi, Michael.
You know, they just released him from suicide hole.
I agree.
All of these things, these protocols lapse. It's the one night he finds a way, and maybe he was just waiting for the opportunity, so it could have been any night when the lapses lined up like that.
I think about that period of time. That is what strikes me the most. From 10:40 p.m. on August 9th until he's discovered at 6:30 a.m., that is
seven hours.
That's
He is
7
supposed
hours.
to be looked at every half hour.
Yeah.
For 7 straight hours, nobody looks at it.
They're horsing
the most
around.
famous prisoner in the entire American judicial system at that point is unchecked for 7 hours.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. In the wake of Epstein's 2019 arrest, his associates did everything they could to distance themselves from him. Those efforts became more urgent in January 2024 when tens of thousands of pages of documents relating to the Epstein investigation were unsealed, including the deposition transcripts of many of his victims. Along with them was a compiled list of the names of over 100 people associated with Epstein. They included the obvious, Presidents Clinton and Trump, Prince Andrew, and, of course, Ghislane Maxwell. But dozens of other very well-known and high-profile people were included. Movie stars Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker knew him well, as did multi-billionaire clothing tycoon Les Wexner, former Secretary of Labor Alexander Acosta, Elon Musk, and even Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, as well as many dozen others. And although, with the possible exception of Prince Andrew, there is no evidence provided that any of these people engaged in illegal activity, even the inclusion of their names on the list subjected them to scorn, and they all quickly backed away as quickly as possible from any assertion with Epstein, many asserting they were the victim of his lies. But perhaps all the discussion about the misconduct of Epstein's guards, the FBI's squandered efforts, the jaundiced eye cast at the politicians and luminaries, and the disclosure of the list has overshadowed the trauma of Epstein's victims, the girls forced into servitude to a monster who will never get to see him convicted and sentenced for what he did, his money forfeited, and his charm no longer of any use to him.
His money's not forfeited because they say he's still getting money. Let's see what this one is. They say he's still getting that man didn't kill himself. Too many excuses. Yeah, I'm beginning to think he let him out. Got him on a private island somewhere. What is
Well, Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy theorists are still just plentiful. Well, yes, they're plentiful, but also they're heated up this week because of the DOJ statement that there's no client list, and
that may
you're
be
not
all.
going to see
I got too many other
who
things.
all of his rich and powerful friends were on the island. Well, now Michael Wolff, the author, is speaking out about his final communications with Jeffrey Epstein, and he says that this happened just hours before Epstein killed himself in prison. The words that were used is what is very, very interesting.
Really,
it is going to stoke a lot of conversation. This is what he said on the Daily Beast podcast.
I believe that I got the last message from him before he died, and this came through one of his lawyers, and on a Friday evening he died on Saturday morning, and he died theoretically by hanging himself. And his message to me hours before this happened was. And it was just in response to me asking, how he was, and he said, "Still hanging around."
Do you think that was a coded message?
I don't know.
I mean, it is weird because it's not a direct response to the question, "How are you?" Right. Just hanging around. It feels like it was something a little bit forced, which makes it intentional.
Also, don't forget that Jeffrey Epstein had tried to commit suicide not that long before that. I believe a few weeks before that by hanging. So for him to use this terminology, to be found hanging that evening, to previously have attempted to hang himself, it's not, I think it'd be too much to say just happenstance, just coincidence. I think he was trying to pass a message.
Hey guys, Juliana from Boca. I think this story is just so crazy. I think we're going to find much more what's going on. And I don't know. It's odd. It's so much.
Can I stop you for a sec?
I don't think.
I think a lot more was going on, and I don't think we're ever going to find out.
Nope.
That's the way Washington works.
Yes, thrown into a vault.
Okay, hold on. Let's see something. Let me pause this. Let me move on around. Let's move on around. Let's do this.
To find quality candidates.
One of the most bizarre and underappreciated aspects of Jeffrey Epstein's death is the final phone call Jeffrey Epstein made from the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, which was the federal prison in Manhattan where he was staying. It was just a short walk from the city's financial district, where Epstein and many of his high-rolling banker associate friends made their fortunes. A report from the Federal Bureau of Prisons in June 2023 said, quote, an MCC New York supervisor had allowed Epstein, in violation of BOP policy, to make an unrecorded, unmonitored phone call the evening before his death to an individual with whom he allegedly had a personal relationship. According to the New York Times, Epstein's final call was supposedly to his girlfriend, a 30-year-old Belarusian woman named Karina Shulyak. If you've never heard of Karina Shulyak, I wouldn't blame you. Almost no one talks about her, despite the fact that she apparently lives in New York City and would probably have useful information about Epstein's mental state in the hours before his death. Shulyak and Epstein had been dating for between 5 and 10 years, according to reports in the Daily Mail and other outlets. And with Epstein, it's obviously difficult to nail down exactly what a dating relationship entails.
Girlfriend.
The evening before his death to an individual with whom he allegedly had a personal relationship. According to the New York Times, Epstein's final call was supposedly to his girlfriend, a 30-year-old Belarusian woman named Karina Shulyak. If you've never heard of Karina Shulyak, I wouldn't blame you. Almost no one talks about her, despite the fact that she apparently lives in New York City and would probably have useful information about Epstein's mental state in the hours before his death. Shulyak and Epstein had been dating for between 5 and 10 years, according to reports in the Daily Mail and other outlets. And with Epstein, it's obviously difficult to nail down exactly what a dating relationship entails. He was a man with basically no sexual morals or conscience, but still the relationship with Miss Shulyak seems to be particularly close. According to the Daily Mail, he seemed to spend a lot of money on her. He put her through dental school and took care of her mother's medical bills back in Belarus, according to that outlet. But one of the questions is, how exactly did he get to call her on an unrecorded phone line? He seems to have lied to the prison guard who allowed him to make the call, saying that he intended to call his mother, even though his mother had been dead since 2004. And because of the fact that for some unknown reason that prison guard allowed him to make a phone call on an unmonitored line, we have essentially no idea what Epstein could have told Shulyak in this call. In my mind, this would probably raise suspicions towards the security guard, given that everybody knows that phone calls in and out of prisons are all recorded, and that the Bureau of Prisons website explicitly states, quote, we extend telephone privileges to inmates to help them maintain ties with their family and other community contacts. Third-party or other alternative call arrangements are not permitted, ensuring inmates do not have the opportunity to use phones for criminal or other inappropriate purposes. We know from other outlets that inmates and prison guards all knew that Jeffrey Epstein was a man with considerable wealth and contacts, and also he had been convicted prior on similar charges. So in other words, he would be exactly the type of person that a policy like this would be written for. On top of that, as I was trying to imagine this scenario in my mind, I realized you would think that the way that you would speak to your girlfriend would be different from the way that you would speak to your mother, as Epstein had told the prison guard. So it's worth asking if the guard was even near him when he made the call. Now, we obviously don't have a recording of this call, but it's worth mentioning that one potential topic of conversation between Epstein and Shulyak could have been the changes Epstein had secretly made to his will, which prison officials were apparently unaware of. Had they been aware of it, it probably would have been cause for concern about Epstein's mental state. But whatever the case, the New York Times reports that Epstein and his lawyers had set up a massive secret trust called the 1953 Trust as part of that final will and testament, and that Shuliak is one of the primary recipients of it, in addition to Richard Kahn and Darren Indyke, who are Epstein's personal accountant and lawyer, respectively. And I will link a PDF of that will in the description, although much of it is boilerplate, sort of legal jargon, and the details of the trust itself are not public, such as who exactly are the recipients of Epstein's large fortune. According to the Daily Mail, Shuliak came to the United States when she was 20 years old, and records show that she was involved in a sham marriage to a woman named Jennifer Kalin, who was a chef that had ties to Epstein at the time. There are photos of her entering and leaving Epstein's large Manhattan townhome. The marriage between Kalin and Shuliak was reportedly orchestrated by Epstein as some sort of immigration ruse, and it ended in 2019 after Epstein died. When Ghislane Maxwell, who was Epstein's kind of right-hand woman, was on trial, Jennifer Kalin actually showed up to the trial to watch, and as a sort of support system, she viewed herself as a victim in this case. Although it's interesting that Karina Shuliak does not feel the same way, apparently. According to the New York Daily News, an unnamed source said Shuliak was shocked and despondent when she learned of Epstein's death, although Shuliak herself has shied away from speaking publicly. This would seem to imply that Epstein did not show signs of despair on that phone call just hours before he died. Whatever the case, to me, the most important questions on this topic are, 1, what did Epstein tell Shuliak on that call? Whether it's details about his personal mental state or about changes that he had made to his estate, there's basically no situation in my mind in which details about this call would not be pertinent to the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein's death. And the second question that I have is, why would an officer that went through extensive training and ostensibly knows the regulations and rules around inmate phone calls, as does basically every prison guard in the country, allow Epstein to make the phone call in the first place? There was a lengthy investigation into the prison guards that reportedly forged the inspection logs and left Epstein alone for hours and hours and hours on the night of his. Why would it, whether it's details about his personal mental state or about changes that he had made to his estate, there's basically no situation in my mind in which details about this call would not be pertinent to the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein's death. And the second question that I have is, why would an officer that went through extensive training and ostensibly knows the regulations and rules around inmate phone calls, as does basically every prison guard in the country, allow Epstein to make the phone call in the first place? There was a lengthy investigation into the prison guards that reportedly forged the inspection logs and left Epstein alone for hours and hours and hours on the night of his death, but I haven't heard basically anything about investigating the person who allowed Epstein to have this unmonitored, unrecorded phone call to his girlfriend. But as we learned this week, the posture of the agencies investigating the Epstein case seems to be that they're pretty much done releasing new information. So answers to these questions, at least, are probably unlikely.
Okay.
Alana in Texas just placed the dreamiest protein coffee order. She picked.
Maybe that's why they got paid off.
From Pam Bondi here, thanking Chuck Grass. This is Democracy Watch, Mark. We've got a new announcement.
Shreds insane Pam Bundy's announcement. Hold on.
All right, welcome back in Alive Now. I'm Austin Westfall. Let's get the latest updates.
The reality is, for Trump, is he's caught between a rock and a very hard place. In that, if the judge says, "Okay, here's everything," right, then he's got a whole nother political problem, particularly if he's all up in the documents.
He
right?
is.
If the judge says no, then his base is mad at him because they expect him to override the judge and to just go out and release it anyway. How do you see this, landing? I guess, what are the circumstances in which, you can have the judge say a little bit of this, a little bit of that, or is it all of it?
Yeah, a couple of things here. So one, as Simone was saying, the information that they're requesting isn't particularly new or novel. Right. It's going to be what was the basis for the indictment, which was made public years ago. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the judge probably isn't going to grant the request. There are only very limited circumstances in which you can release grand jury material. And third, and I think this is the most important part, this administration doesn't want the request to be granted. Right.
Right.
This is,
dirty secret.
Yeah, exactly. This is a really important legal issue with a lot of novel questions. The brief that they filed was 3.5 pages long, double-spaced. This is not an argument that was meant to win.
Can I ask you a question? They filed it in New York, but there seemed to be some indication that it might also file something similar in Florida. Do you have a sense of why that is?
Yeah. So they may have filed something under seal in Florida. We haven't confirmed that yet. But here's the really important thing, because that gets to that, is if that is a request for materials related to Ghislane Maxwell's case, one of the reasons that you don't disclose grand jury materials is because it might be prejudicial to witnesses, to defendants, and to ongoing cases. There was a request for materials from the McCarthy era, the 1950s, that was denied because some of the witnesses were still alive. The Maxwell appeal is still going on, so it seems incredibly unlikely that a judge would grant that request.
And it's important to note she is literally sitting in jail as we speak. The crimes of Jeffrey Epstein were real, the victims were real, the conspiracy is all this other stuff that the White
Oh, I'm sorry.
House helped whip up. Okay, this is what NBC News has reported on Donald Trump's Department of Justice order on Epstein, saying that it could create legal and ethical challenges. Brendan cited some of these under seal. Do the people who are calling in on talk radio care about these very technical legal roadblocks?
No, they definitely don't. They care about a few things. They care about the performance of Trump, and in particular, what he's doing on the stage. Him resisting any transparency played out from just their storytelling perspective as somehow he was doing something that was oppositional to what they said, was unexpected, and it seemed really unsettling for them, which made them angrier, and that's why you saw more pushback and violent pushback. The second he went out there and said, let's release the grand jury testimony, it immediately changes the perception. It brings the temperature down a lot. It doesn't make the story go away because they want to see the dots that they can then connect. So they expect something, but they're not drawing a ton of nuance between the grand jury
He's
files,
not giving
what is
nothing.
inside
He's
the
giving
FBI's records, all
Martin
that.
Luther
They're
King.
not making any distinction there. You have to consider what he's doing at the same time. So he throws that out there, says, now we're gonna, it's this judge. Then you know how those judges are. We better fight and take this away. We need them to release this from us. So they're the roadblock. We're going to fight. So now I'm an advocate for transparency. And as he does that, he does a few other things. He drops this, he has the DNI go out there and drop some stuff about President Obama, somehow being involved in Russiagate. He then releases a bunch of files about Martin Luther King. He's like, do you see how transparent I am? Look at all the things that I've been doing. So does it make it go away? No, it doesn't by any means. It's down to a simmer.
Make you look real bad.
There are some people, though, that are not buying it. So I think one of the significant pieces to consider is that what are the major influencers saying? Somebody like Andrew Torba that runs Gab, which is an important part of things that I've been doing. So does it make it
plain in people's
the DNI
face?
Go out there and drop some stuff about President Obama, somehow being involved in Russiagate. He does that. He does a few other things. He drops this, he has the DNI go out there and drop some stuff about President Obama, somehow being involved in Russiagate. He then releases a bunch of files about Martin Luther King. He's like, do you see how transparent I am? Look at all the things that I've been doing. So does it make it go away? No, it doesn't by any means. It's down to a simmer. There are some people, though, that are not buying it. So I think one of the significant pieces to consider is that what are the major influencers saying? Somebody like Andrew Torba that runs Gab, which is an important part of the right-wing ecosystem, says, don't buy this. Do not buy into this. This is because
they want a data dump?
They want a data dump.
They want a WikiLeaks.
They do.
They want a WikiLeaks. They want it
Exactly
all
right.
on the middle of the table, and they can go through it.
Precisely.
Absolutely.
And so the more sophisticated players that are not locked in, like the Ben Shapiro's or even the Steve Bannon, who has his own complications here, because he's sitting on the largest trove of Jeffrey Epstein stuff.
15 hours.
15, yes. He's sitting on 15 hours and yet is out there calling for transparency from Donald Trump. But he's trying to have it both ways. He's trying to be an advocate. So everyone has their own stakes, but the majority of the talkers out there, They want the data dump so that they can be the one to
And
be
he
the
can't,
storyteller.
and he can't afford to have the data dump at all. I mean, to your very important legal point, because you have someone who's
'Cause
sitting
he's
in prison,
in there.
Ghislane is still sitting in prison. She's appealing. That case is still going on. You're not going to open this case up, redact those names, and put it on the street. Trump knows that. His Department of Justice knows that. But it's interesting, as the New York Times report, Mr. Trump has concentrated power within the Justice Department in Washington and in 2 of the offices,
Yep.
has elevated loyalists with little prosecutorial
This is the first time
experience,
he's been
leading
challenged
to
like
confusion
this.
and plummeting morale within the rank and file. His moves raise the question of what exactly a U.S. attorney is empowered to do, which is kind of why I started the question the way I did, beyond serving Mr. Trump's chosen agenda. Because he's got all these loyalists behind him, because of what Angelo just put on the table, what his political personal motivations are, who gets caught in this trap? Is it the poor little lawyer who's sitting there having to go in front of a judge and argue something he knows damn well he's not going to win?
Absolutely. You know, I still have friends in government, and they are miserable. You know, it's not just that they're having their cases killed for political reasons. It's not just that
Miserable.
they're being forced to take political, untenable decisions. It's that they're destroying the credibility of the Department of Justice. And
Absolutely.
that is the only asset
For Trump.
that the Department of
Is that
Justice has.
destruction with judges, with other lawyers? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
All of the above.
above. You know, the ultimate power of the Department of Justice, it's not like NASA or the Department of Defense. It doesn't have rocket ships or armies or anything like that. The only thing it has is its ability to convince judges and juries about the truth of things. And when you have such obviously political decisions being made, that credibility gets eviscerated.
Yep. All because he all over the files. Check out this one.
A pair of investigative reports in the New York
Ouch.
Times revealed stunning new details about what might be in the Jeffrey Epstein-related FBI materials that
Hold
Donald
on.
Trump's most loyal
Because the
followers
fact, a
are
couple things.
clamoring
One,
for.
you've
It
got
starts with some of the
Democratic
most
governors now
comprehensive
looking at the
explorations on that
possibility
topic
of
to
doing
date.
the same
Oh,
in their
I'm sorry.
states to
15-year
offset
public
any
friendship to their
gains
falling
here. But 2, given the momentum the Democrats are starting to build, the plan is to go after these particular seats for the purposes of getting some type of electoral advantage, I guess in 26. It makes no sense to me because the fact, a couple of things. One, you've got Democratic governors now looking at the possibility of doing the same in their states to offset
Felon in the
any
White
gains
House.
here. But 2, given the momentum the Democrats are starting to build and hoping to continue to build, Republicans are going to need more than 4 seats out of Texas to hold the House next year. But in the meantime, what do you think this political play says about this effort to do this now?
Well, first we have to understand that this is more than just Texas, okay? Texas is being targeted because it's a red state, because he can tell the governor what to do and the lieutenant governor, and they'll do his bidding. And it is all about who I call the felon in the White House wants to stay in the White House.
The felon in the White
And
House.
he knows that this next term in the 2026 elections, they're going to lose next term in the 2026
The
elections.
felon.
And it is all about who I call the felon in the White House wants to stay in the White House. And he knows that this next term in the 2026
The felon
elections,
in the White
they're going to
House.
lose a lot of seats because their ideas are losing. Look at the polls. The polls tell us that over 60% of the people don't like the big ugly bill. Over 50% of the people disapprove of the felon in the White House. He
The
wants
felon
to
in the White
retain power.
House.
He's going to do whatever it takes. So he calls our governor and says, I need 5 seats. And he says that July 7th, July 9th, the governor calls a special session. He's got some things related to flooding, and the things that really he should be focused on is the crisis and what we need to do to prevent another devastating crisis like that. But instead, he's putting politics, pure politics, over people, and he added this to the agenda. And now they're going to start hearings this weekend, and the White House wants a report, or DOJ wants a report of rough maps by August 7th. That's 2 more weeks. So they're going to railroad this through.
Want to
Wow.
try appetite?
So this is tirzepatide, and it is the #1 weight loss medicine.
That's 2 more weeks. So they're going to railroad this through as quickly as they can, but we're not this weekend. And the White House wants a report, or DOJ wants a report of rough maps by August 7th. That's 2 more weeks. So they're going to railroad this through as quickly as they can, but we're not going to do it without a fight. You know, we will be there to fight every step of the way.
The fight is important. I mean, to be clear, just to share numbers, if Republicans in the state house and the state senate in Texas, they want to force these maps through, they have the numbers and the supermajority that they can. So then we're looking to the courts, and I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little uneasy about the courts. Talk to me about the importance of the state legislatures here. You used to serve in the Texas State Senate.
I served in the Texas Senate and on the Texas Redistricting Committee, and even that one was all a sort of a rubber stamp kind of session, because the governor presented maps. I know I presented several amendments. None of them were passed. I presented 2 maps in Houston to get 2 new have 2 Latino congressional districts in Houston. We have 1, but the population has grown. Over 50% of the population in Houston, Harris County area has been Latino. Like it or not, this is not about race. It's about population growth. So if they want to be able to have more numbers, they're just going to have to start having more babies, because we are.
Can I say one thing? Can you put the graphic of the seats that are being targeted up on the screen?
Because you're going to notice that they're all minority urban districts.
Yes.
Minority urban districts. And they're alleging that because they're based on race. DOJ is saying that today.
You put the graphic of the seats that are being targeted up on the screen, because
you're going to notice that they're all minority urban districts. Minority urban districts. And they're alleging that because they're based on race. DOJ is saying that today, but we are actually in court in El Paso on a case where the state is defending the maps that they're attacking, and they're saying, oh no, it's all race neutral. There is nothing to do about race in the maps, and they're the same maps that the governor approved, the same maps that they keep arguing that were not based on race, are the ones DOJ is saying, oh no, you have to do it, and of course the governor's saying, okay, yes.
So my question is, who are they replacing these 5 minority members with?
It's crazy, because they're saying one thing in court, and they're saying something else to DOJ.
I contend that math is tricky. I remember once when I was in high school, we were in gym class, we were playing dodgeball. There were 6 of us on one side and 7 on the other. And the teacher said, well, it's uneven, so one of you is going to need to move over. And I said, well, it's still going to be uneven, just in a different direction. And there is the possibility that this happens here. I want you to take a listen to how Beto O'Rourke described the possibility of a dummy manager. Take a listen.
We have to get serious. We have to be absolutely ruthless about getting back in power. So yes, in California, in Illinois, in New York, wherever we have the trifecta of power, we have to use that to its absolute extent. And then the last thing, this may end up biting Republicans in the ass. You have the possibility that they will disperse Republican voters to make up these 3 or 4 or 5 new congressional districts and put those districts in play.
What do you think the chances are that happens?
I think it's very real, because, again, it's a midterm election. There's going to be those changes anyway. That's why he wants 5 more seats out of Texas, so that he can offset some of the losses around the country. But if they push and tug too much, then it jeopardizes and puts Republican seats at risk. Some will be more competitive, and some they're going to lose, because we're going to fight like hell to make sure that they do. Because it just doesn't hapen doing a mid-decade redistricting. It's going to change so much for so many Texans. People are going to be confused. They're not going to know what happened to their member of Congress. It all goes back to making sure it's one person, one vote, and that you have a representative that shares your values that you can vote on. You know, look at that Justice Department letter. It targets nothing but minority urban districts. They can say everything they want, but the bottom line is they put black and brown folks in jeopardy by writing that letter.
I agree a lot with Beto O'Rourke's assessment here, because it is how you go on offense, given not defense here, but on offense. Accept what they're throwing at you and have a counterplay. And put them in, which they think they're now on offense by making this new rule, this new map. But then all of a sudden, if they all have to look around at other states potentially, but even within their own state, and the last part of that is about the math, exactly to your point and Beto O'Rourke's point, because the math is comprised of numbers, and the numbers represent people. And the people are the ones who are ultimately on two fronts here. One, confused because suddenly they're now in a different district and they're looking to vote and they don't know where to go. So that's going to have a real big impact on turnout. So that means you're going to have to spend extra money and extra dollars to re-educate your population in the middle of what will be a hot election cycle to begin with, to figure out where people are voting. And two, once they know where to vote, all right, then you've got to worry about actually getting them to the polls and the backlash that oftentimes comes when people see you playing around with the system this way. So how do you keep this front of mind for voters, that what they're doing, what Republicans in the Senate, the House, and the governorship are doing is basically stripping away their electoral opportunity?
Well, we had some rallies this weekend. We're doing them rallies before the hearing. I know in Houston, we're going to have a rally before the hearing. I'm going to go to all the hearings that there is scheduled so far. There's 3. I mean, we're going to do ads. We're going to get the people out there. The governor needs to hear that people don't want this. And he's got to hear from the people, not from the felon in the White House.
The felon in the White House.
That's what voting is all about. That's the basis of our democracy. That's the basis of one person, one vote. That you make the choice, not the politicians in Washington. I mean, we haven't even seen a map.
Correct.
Right.
The map doesn't even exist yet.
We have the first hearing, I think it's Friday, and then we have one Saturday in Houston. No one's seen the map. We're being told that it's being crafted at the White House by the political operatives there. I mean, who wants a map coming from Washington? Nobody does.
Certainly, no one in Texas.
I think we're gonna fight like hell, and we're gonna meet the moment. I mean, It's time for us as Democrats to fight fire with fire.
Okay, hold on. The felon in the White House. I can't get past that. She called him a felon in the White House. Wow. Should a felon be in the White House? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Let me get back to this. I hit the volume. Y'all, please double tap the screen. Get the likes up, please. Let's hear this.
Reports in the New York Times reveal stunning new details about what might be in the Jeffrey Epstein-related FBI materials that Donald Trump's most loyal followers have been clamoring for. It starts with one of the most comprehensive explorations on that topic to date, from a 15-year public friendship to their falling out in 2004, and all the way through to last week. Quote, there were lavish dinners with bold-faced names at Mr. Epstein's mansion on the Upper East Side, and raucous parties with cheerleaders and models at Mr. Trump's private club and residence at Mar-a-Lago. In between, there were trips back and forth from Florida to New York on one of Mr. Epstein's private jets. In a separate piece of reporting, the New York Times presents the experience of one Epstein accuser in particular, Maria Farmer, whose story, the Times says, suggests how Trump might appear in the Epstein files. It has to do with an encounter Farmer says happened in 1995 as she was preparing to work for Jeffrey Epstein. Quote, she said she told the authorities that late one night, Mr. Epstein unexpectedly called her to his offices in a luxury building in Manhattan, and she arrived in running shorts. Mr. Trump then arrived wearing a business suit and started to hover over her, she said she told the authorities. Ms. Farmer said she recalled feeling scared as Mr. Trump stared at her bare legs. Then Mr. Epstein entered the room, and she recalled him saying to Mr. Trump, quote, "No, no, she's not here for you," end quote. The two men left the room, and Ms. Farmer said she could hear Mr. Trump commenting that he thought Ms. Farmer was 16 years old. Farmer made clear to the New York Times that although she told the FBI about this incident in 1996 and again in 2006, there were no further alarming interactions with Donald Trump, and she didn't see him engage in inappropriate conduct with girls or women. Furthermore, we should note Trump has never been charged or accused of wrongdoing in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. He's gone so far as to suggest that he had no idea his old acquaintance was abusing young women. In a statement provided to the New York Times, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt insists that Donald Trump had barred Mr. Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club, quote, for being a creep. These stories are tired and pathetic attempts to distract from all the success of President Trump's administration, end quote.
Watch what magnesium does to your bowels.
If you have to wipe more than 4 times after you poop, here's why.
The Mayo Clinic confirms that.
Okay. So we start today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. New York Times investigative reporter Mike Schmidt is here. He is byline on that piece of reporting we were just reading from. Also joining us is former lead investigator for the January 6th Select Committee, Tim Hafey. And with us for the hour, MSNBC political analyst, host of the Bulwark podcast, Tim Miller's here. Mike Schmidt, take me through what you and your colleague reported about the FBI's knowledge of, at least from one witness, Donald Trump's interactions with Jeffrey Epstein.
Look, in the course of a several decades-long Justice Department investigation, investigators are going to soak up all different sorts of tips, details, leads, and such. In the course of that, as this one woman tells her story, she's telling us that she told the FBI about an interaction she had with Trump and Epstein. And the significance of it is that that is just the type of detail that Trump's allies and supporters have been clamoring for. They want the Epstein files. They want to know who was close to Epstein, who he was talking to, who he was doing business with. Anyone who was connected to him, they believe, should see the light of day. And Donald Trump, being someone who's obviously very powerful and important, would sort of fit into what the supporters would want, because what the supporters would want to know is who was in the orbit of Epstein. And what we're trying to say in this story is that although we cannot see into all the Justice Department files, and we don't know everything that is in them, or even if this woman's account of her interaction with Trump is there, this is the type of thing that could be buried in the documents that would be unflattering for Trump, because Trump would have to explain, well, why were you with Jeffrey Epstein? Why were you with him in this room with this woman? Like, what is that all about? And it makes it more difficult for him to put distance between him and himself. But at the heart of this story is the idea that this is the type of thing that investigations soak up. A very small percentage of the evidence investigators collect ultimately goes, in an indictment or is used at a trial where a judge oversees, how it can be cross-examined. And this is the type of detail that could be damaging, that could potentially be in the documents.
Mike Schmidt, just tell us a little bit more about Ms. Farmer and her sister and how they figured into the Epstein investigation, because victims seem to be absent reporting like yours, somewhat voiceless and potentially re-traumatized by all of this.
Well, in 2019, my colleague Mike Baker reported on these two sisters and about how one of them in 1995 called the NYPD to essentially report Epstein and Maxwell to the authorities. And the significance of that is that this is one of the, if not the first call to law enforcement, the first time that someone reported Epstein to folks who could hold him accountable criminally. according to their account, the NYPD told them to reach out to the FBI. They reached out to the FBI. About a decade later, they were interviewed again by the FBI. It was in those two different interactions with the FBI that one of the sisters says that she told them about the interactions that she had with Trump and how there were very powerful people who Epstein had ties to, and that was something that she thought the authorities should look into. She didn't have evidence that Donald Trump or any of the other powerful folks had committed criminal wrongdoing, but she's basically saying, look, there's this guy who's doing these things that are wrong, and he's associated with people who are very powerful, including Bill Clinton. That story in 2019 was significant because we were trying to establish, my colleague Mike Baker was trying to establish, okay, when was the first time the authorities potentially learned about Epstein? And it is out of that woman going to the authorities in the hopes that someone will hold Epstein accountable that she makes a disclosure about her interactions with Trump.
So, Tim Hafey, guess who said this? Quote, House Republicans, put on your big boy pants and tell us who the pedophiles are. I won't make you guess. It was Kash Patel. Now, no one is saying that Trump's a pedophile, but the charged pedophile is dead. His name was Jeffrey Epstein, and the files that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have clamored for include all sorts of names, as Mike and his colleagues are reporting, including Donald Trump. Where do you think we are in terms of what is inside those files? That, again, it's Elon Musk who first, I think, went public with this shocking message. He tweeted, Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. It was part of a brawl between the two. I don't know what his state of claiming that to be true, and I don't actually know what he saw that suggests he knew that. But Mike and his colleagues' reporting certainly corroborates Elon Musk's tweet. But how much do you think is public, and how much more is there, sort of under the surface, if we're using an iceberg analogy?
Yeah, Nicole, I totally agree with Mike that there is a lot more that was gathered than what is in the grand jury transcripts that the department has now asked to be released. Having done this dozens of times myself, investigations are like a funnel. Lots of information comes in to the top of the funnel, and it's sifted for relevance, it's sifted for corroboration, for reliability, for consistency with other evidence, and then out the bottom of the funnel comes a relatively small
Is he touching somebody
that specifically implicates individuals
somebody's wife
charged criminal offenses. So my guess is, in the Epstein files writ large, there's a lot of information, much like Mike's reporting about allegations that were made by people over the years. Very little of that would likely be in these grand jury transcripts. The precise issue before the grand jury, back when Ms. Maxwell and Mr. Epstein were indicted, was, were they personally involved in the violations of federal criminal law? That was the evidence that was put before the grand jury, not everything else from that funnel. So, Nicole, I don't know what else is in that funnel. I don't know how much of it was corroborated, how much of it was not. You often, in a big, broad-ranging investigation, get stuff that you frankly don't credit, that you don't think is accurate. Certainly doesn't meet the evidentiary test of reliability to be introduced in a proceeding, grand jury or trial proceeding. So there's probably lots and lots of threads, that some of which were pursued, some of which were not pursued, but none of that is likely to be in the grand jury, but for very specific allegations about crimes committed by Maxwell and Epstein.
Hold on, yeah.
The course of a several decades long Justice Department investigation, investigators are going to soak up all different sorts of tips, details, leads, and such. In the course of that, as this one woman tells her story, she's telling us that she told the FBI about an interaction she had.
That's how he knew he was on the island. Wow. Were they? Hold on. Y'all know Tyson Beckford. He said he was invited to, on top of having to whoop Diddy's partner's ass, he was invited to Epstein Island. Hold on.
With some girl, because you know that back then Bad Boy used to be around the corner from 5th and 19th or 20th Street, somewhere around there. So, you know, I'm minding my business. He come up with around there. So, you know, I'm minding my business. He come up with this girl and was like, yo,
I know you and Diddy have had your things.
Yeah. I mean, I so want to tell a story about how we got into it in
No,
the street.
I want to get to where he was invited to Epstein's Island, and then he can tell you about Diddy. Hold on. Felon in the White House. And then we're going to see about what they're talking about with these Martin Luther King. Martin Luther, before we go. He said he was invited to Epstein Island. Where is it at now? Hold on. It's like, oh, he like black. Thank God you didn't go. Harvey Levin sure don't want Diddy ass to be in trouble. I mean, not Diddy, Trump.
Looking to hire medical staff, tech support, kitchen help, freight managers, you name it.
Now, what's this surprise
We've
announcement?
got yet another surprise announcement from Donald Trump today as he continues his flood the zone approach to try and rework the narrative away from Epstein and toward literally anything else. Trump's director of national intelligence took to Twitter, writing, "Today, after nearly 60 years of questions surrounding the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we are releasing 230,000 MLK assassination files. The documents include details about the FBI's investigation into the assassination of MLK, discussion of potential leads, internal FBI memos detailing the progress of the case, information about James Earl Ray's former cellmate who stated he discussed with Ray an alleged assassination plot, and more. Thanks to President Donald Trump's leadership, Executive Order 14176 resulted in 3 unprecedented interagency efforts to identify, digitize, and declassify and release files related to the federal government's investigations into the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. King." First of all, you know what's most striking about this announcement? That apparently, if the White House wants to release files,
they can.
How about
they
that,
can.
No grand jury testimonies.
Absolutely.
That have to be unsealed,
Absolutely.
No waiting for judges, no blocked votes in Congress, just the president and his department heads releasing information that they want released because they said they would release it. It's almost like they can if they want to. Kind of makes you think, huh? I mean, hell, even Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter sees the scam that Donald Trump is perpetuating right now, taking to Twitter and writing, "Now do the Epstein files." When even
Bernice,
thanks to President Donald Trump's leadership, Executive Order 14176 resulted
Let's
in
go.
unprecedented interagency efforts to identify, digitize, and declassify and release files related to the federal government's investigations into the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. King. First of all, you know what's most striking about this announcement? That apparently, if the White House wants to release files, it can. Jury testimonies that have to be unsealed, no waiting
no
for
stalling,
judges,
no
blocked
nothing.
votes in Congress, just the president and his department heads releasing information that they
If
want
I was
released
MAGA,
because they
I'd
said
be
they would
pissed.
release it. It's almost like they can if they want to.
Absolutely.
Kind of makes you think, huh? I mean, hell, even Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter sees the scam that Donald Trump is perpetuating right now, taking to Twitter and writing, "Now do the Epstein files." When even MLK's descendants can see the con that this guy is engaged in, the dam might be breaking. In fact, the MLK files being released is the second attempt just today at distracting Americans. Trump had Pam Bondi release a statement this morning reading, quote, "Statement from Attorney General Pamela Bondi on Senate Judiciary Committee request for information related to Clinton email investigation, July 21st, 2025. Today, the Department of Justice honored Chairman Grassley's request to release information relating to former FBI Director James Comey's failed investigation into Hillary Clinton's mishandling of highly classified information during her tenure as Secretary of State."
Didn't they find? I'm sorry. Didn't they not find classified information at Mar-a-Lago? I mean, if memory serves me correctly, did they not find files? Yeah. Okay.
Years-long commitment to exposing the truth and holding those who seek to conceal it accountable. Hillary's emails. It is July of 2025, and we are still talking about Hillary's fucking emails.
No
In case
Epstein.
you're wondering just how committed to the bit Trump is to distracting everybody using the greatest hits. But unfortunately, it seems that there's an inverse relationship between Trump's distraction efforts and everyone actually getting distracted, because even Republican lawmakers are losing their patience with the White House. Congressman Thomas Massie took to Twitter today, writing, "If the executive branch won't release phase 2 of the Epstein files, we will. Americans deserve transparency and the victims deserve justice."
Absolutely.
I spoke with the co-sponsor of Massie's bill, Ro Khanna, and here's what he had to say.
Massie and I have worked together many times. We're teaming up on this effort. The bill would require the full release of the Epstein files and all of the evidence, of course, protecting victims and protecting the release of anything like child pornography. It's very precisely written. And we had the backing of all 212 Democrats, but here's what is incredibly encouraging. We already have 7 Republican co-sponsors, including people like Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tim Burchett. These are very, very conservative MAGA figures. And so we have the votes now to force a vote in the Congress on this bill. It requires the bill to be there for 7 days. Then you've got to get everyone to sign a discharge petition. So we can't force the vote until September, but we will be able to get this passed through the House.
And in the meantime, I also asked Jamie Raskin what other avenues we can pursue to compel the release of the files. What can Democrats do? What are Democrats doing right now to compel this information? And I ask this because we've seen multiple efforts where Democrats have sought votes in the House, both in the Rules Committee, on the House floor, even the Senate floor, to compel the release of these files. And 2 times in the Rules Committee, Republicans voted it down. 2 times in the House, Republicans voted it down. 1 time in the Senate, at the hands of Ruben Gallego, Republicans voted it down. And so what are our options here moving forward?
Well, we've also, in the Judiciary Committee, the Democrats have demanded a full bipartisan hearing where we subpoena all of this information and we subpoena witness testimony from Attorney General Bondi, from FBI Director Kash Patel, from the Deputy Director Dan Bongino. So they come forward and everybody tells us everything they know about this whole nightmarish scenario. So that's one thing. We can continue to press that. Now, Chairman Jordan's answer was, well, yes, we're going to have her in to talk about everything, right, implying, therefore, we can ask about those questions. All right, he said before the end of the year, and then when we were saying this is ridiculous, we're not waiting till December, people started saying September we could do. So who knows? We'll keep pressing on that. But here's the other thing. I got to salute my counterpart over in the Senate, who's the ranking Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Durbin, who has discovered, apparently from a whistleblower, I'm not quite sure how, but that you remember they had actually conscripted 1,000 FBI agents to be working around the clock, 24 hours, going through more than 100,000 of these Epstein documents in the files, and apparently told them to flag any mentions or appearances or pictures of Donald Trump. Anything that appears there of Donald Trump, they're supposed to flag it. Well, what were they supposed to do after they flag it? And we also heard separately, this was a couple weeks ago, that the FBI Director Kash Patel was using lie detector tests against the FBI agents. And I wonder whether, these two things are related to each other. In other words, somebody finds something relating to Donald Trump, they turn it over. Are they then asked, are you loyal to Donald Trump? Will you do what we ask you to do? Are you going to turn this over to anybody else? And, this might be one of the most massive cover-ups in the history of the United States unfolding before our very eyes. Because Donald Trump is obviously freaked out about some stuff that's in there. Right?
He sure
the
is.
idea that you create this army within the FBI to scrape through everything just looking for mentions of Donald Trump is quite unusual and fascinating.
And of course, the White House and their sycophants in Congress, like Mike Johnson, have been desperate for delay, hoping that that'll take the heat off of them. But it's looking like that'll do anything but. According to Massey, over the August recess, I think momentum will build for transparency. I don't think this is going to go away, and I think when we return in September, we will get phase 2 of the Epstein files. In other words, Trump and Mike Johnson refused to allow the discharge petition to come up for a vote before the August recess, thinking that the heat on Trump will dissipate. Instead, it only seems to be building. And of course, aside from the legislative avenues to compel the release of these files from Democrats and a few Republicans, there's also immense pressure bearing down from the media. Trump is losing support even from his most vocal mouthpieces.
What are you worried about this list we promised you guys? I know, it's also so funny how clearly they got the list and went, guys, who even cares? Like, they obviously the whole time leading up to it were like, fuck that, we're gonna get that fucking list. And then one day they were like, what are we even talking about? Also, you get the list and you go, me 7 times? Me again? Son of a bitch.
So Trump will certainly try and deflect with more announcements like the release of the MLK files, or Hillary's emails, or denaturalizing Rosie O'Donnell, or putting cane sugar in Coke, or forcing the Washington Commanders to change their name, or arresting Barack Obama, or whatever else falls out of his addled brain. But all of the distractions in the world should only serve to reinforce that he is really, really desperate to hide the truth from everyone. And if it's that bad, then all of us, left, right, and center, should really want to see it.
Absolutely. The more he deflects, the more I want to see it. Unaltered. Are y'all still with me? Tea sippers, are you with me? He is the baby. When I tell you the panic, not panic, the panic is on. I mean, it is on like Donkey Kong. Let's see this. Okay, hold on. It's just music. Hold on. Bernice said, now release the Epstein file while you playing with my daddy. Let's go here.
And we are now following some breaking news. The Trump administration has just released thousands of FBI records on Martin Luther King Jr. The documents inside include details about how the FBI's investigation into King's assassination, and the release comes despite opposition from the civil rights leader's family. NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley joins me now with more on this breaking news. So Ryan, I guess the big question is, why now?
Well, this was something that Donald Trump had ordered, but, there was that famous video of that Fox News interview that Donald Trump did where he was talking about what he would order declassified, talking about the JFK files, the MLK files, and then the Epstein files. And the Epstein files was the one he sort of held back on there. And that's, of course, what is really dominating the news, or at least was as of a couple days ago. And this, the timing of this, I think certainly raises, a few eyebrows. Obviously, this is something that had been in the works for a while, so the exact timing. Okay, files.
It ain't been in the works for a while.
Was the one he sort of held back on. Well, this was something that Donald Trump had ordered, but, there was that famous video of that Fox News interview that Donald Trump did where he was talking about what he would order declassified, talking about the JFK files, the MLK files, and then the Epstein files. And the Epstein files was the one he sort of held back on there. And that's, of course, what is really dominating the news, or at least was as of a couple days ago. And this, the timing of this, I think certainly raises, a few eyebrows. Obviously, this is something that had been in the works for a while, so the exact timing, but combined with a number of other stories that we saw today, along with some of Donald Trump's posts from overnight, it seems as though changing the topic from Epstein seems to be a major focus here for sure, Ryan.
And this is not something the King family is in favor of. They voiced their opposition to this release. Why don't they want this information out there?
Well, there are definitely, it's a lot of personal information that would be coming out. They did have a statement from a conservative member of Dr. King's family who was sort of supporting this in the press release that they put out in connection with this. And you had a mention from Pam Bondi praising Dr. King as, a great American. So there are definitely questions about how much information is in regard to his personal life should be, put out in the public there. So that's
he wasn't no PDFer.
And it could,
he was not a predator. If he cheated, he was not a predator.
So I think that's, but obviously,
so we don't care.
Documents, so it's going to take a long time for people to actually go through them and see if there's anything really new that comes along.
He did not play with kids.
And could there be information released that could potentially be seen as damaging to Dr. King or his legacy?
I think it remains to be seen, right? Because we saw so much material that still has to be gone through and put in the context of what was already known. Obviously there are some great biographies out there about Dr. King that look, including a trilogy that looks over the course of his life. So this is something that has been closely studied. Some files have come out before, but I think this mostly is going to be focused on the assassination, but it remains to be seen, I think, what exactly is going to be in these.
It is not going to say that he fooled with kids.
Updating us on that breaking news.
So we still want the Epstein file.
Updated on breaking news.
Let's be clear. We still want the Epstein file.
Top stories on the NBC News app or watch live.
We still want the Epstein file. I'm with Bernice King. Okay, now. Can we have the files, please?
Confirmed today it has received National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard's criminal referral related to her claims Obama-era officials manufactured intelligence claiming Russia tried to influence the 2016 election. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, joining us. Gabbard releasing the unclassified documents Friday, Jeff, reportedly revealing bombshell information. Break down what was found.
Over 100 documents were released, Didi, that Gabbard says reveal overwhelming evidence President Obama and his national security cabinet members manufactured and also politicized intelligence for what would become the years-long Trump-Russia collusion probe.
Gabbard publicly addressing the documents Sunday, saying the implications of these findings are nothing short of historic.
Really detail and provide evidence of how this
treasonous
conspiracy was directed by President Obama.
The documents claim there was no evidence of Russian interference, but at President Obama's request, intelligence community leaders were tasked with creating a new assessment, detailing the, quote, tools Moscow used and actions it took to influence the 2016 election.
The effect of what President Obama and his senior national security team did was subvert the will of the American people.
Among those named in the documents, then Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, National Security Advisor Susan Rice, Secretary of State John Kerry, and former CIA Director John Brennan, now under criminal investigation for potentially lying to Congress about the decision to examine claims in a Steele dossier alleging coordination between the Russian government and Trump campaign.
They clearly had a more favorable view toward Mr. Trump, and actions they were taking were trying to increase his prospects.
President Trump, appearing to be responding to Gabbard's claims on Truth Social, posted this montage of Democratic leaders saying, quote, "No one is above the law," followed by an AI-generated video of Obama being arrested and then thrown in jail.
Now, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley also announced he will release documents related to the 2018 DOJ Inspector General report, focusing on the department's handling of the
And y'all gonna look stupid because we still want the Epstein file.
Reporting for the National News Desk, I'm Jeff Harris.
It don't have nothing to do with playing with kids, trafficking kids. I think that's all I know it ain't all I got, but let me see this.
You just have to go to Project 2020. I don't want to live in a world where public education and the education of our youth is not respected, is not given dignity, is defunded, where money is diverted to the rich and the wealthy and the powerful so they can subsidize their private schools. And that's exactly what the Republicans have wanted to do for the last 40 years.
Y'all, I need 20 likes, please.
A barrier, a thorn in their side.
Can I get 20 likes? Double tap the screen. Double tap the screen. What happened? I don't know you. Felon in the White House. I cannot get past that one. Come on, y'all. I need 18 likes. He is in. I thought I just saw it.
Why? It sets standards to raise up American school children to make sure they meet the world demands and testing demands and the rigor of their scholarship and of their education. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. But to Republicans, we got to get rid of it. We got to get rid of the Department of Education using money and investigators to go after sexual discrimination, gender discrimination, sexual assaults on college campuses, in high schools. That's a good thing. But to the Republicans, that's a bad thing. And the mission of Donald Trump from day one was to destroy the Department of Education, put it out of business. He found a complicit United States Supreme Court with a recent ruling. We cover it all right here on the Legal AF podcast. Take a listen. And so in their most recent decision, which everybody should be up in arms about, is the destruction of the Department of Education, created during, I believe, the Carter administration in a bipartisan way because of failing test scores and other major issues, including discrimination in public school and through higher education. And so the Department of Education was not an entity created to level society, to make us mediocre. It was made to lift us up and to support public education in America. I don't want to live in a country that doesn't have a strong public education component to it. And the Republicans, of course, and MAGA don't support that. You just have to go to Project 2025, created by Russ Vaught. Now you're head of Office of Management and Budget and others. And right there it says the Department of Education should be eliminated because they've seen it as a bane to their existence of having public money used for private institutions so they can send their kids to private school and private religious schools without having a Department of Education in their way. They also don't like the Department of Education protecting mainly women on college campuses from sexual abuse. I've handled cases, so have you, involving just that thing. And the Department of Education has a tremendous role in our society, or had, until it was defunded and now allowed to be destroyed by the United States Supreme Court. We are a lesser society by allowing and having allowed Donald Trump to destroy the Department of Education. Linda McMahon defunded it.
He don't care nothing about no education.
Or reoriented it away from its mission to protect students, to protect women on campus, to protect equality on campus, to make sure that testing scores and testing materials and education
He don't care nothing about that.
Lift up students in public school to give them an ability to compete in society and to put them on equal footing with the...
He don't care nothing about that. He don't care nothing about that. I can tell you that now. He don't care nothing about that. Now, Don Lemon, he cannot escape it. Trump. Oh. Why is he so mad at Barack? Why is he so... Because he think he got something to do with... Room full of men and kids. I can imagine this is what that trafficking, that man was talking about, where all the rich guys come and the kids come out and they sitting there looking at them. Wow. 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 Wow.
Timeline. So how did we get here? To answer that.
Wow. I don't know what to say, young. Oh my God, that's sick. You ain't never lied.
People are forgetting how we got here with the Epstein files, so we're going to do a full timeline. So how did we get here? To answer that, we need to take a step backwards. It was a sunny day in 1953 when Jeffrey Epstein was born in Brooklyn.
Boo!
Okay. March 2005, a 14-year-old girl and her parents come to the Palm Beach police saying Epstein molested her in his mansion. Police investigate. They find 30 other underage girls. May 2006, police conclude their investigation and recommend charges. They're like, he's totally guilty. A Palm Beach grand jury.
His wise, witty Clarence.
Solicitation of prostitution. 2007 to 2008, Epstein's lawyers quietly negotiated.
Y'all, I need 15 likes.
With who? That's important. Remember this name, Alexander Acosta. What did the deal include? It granted Epstein federal immunity from any sex trafficking charges. It also protected any unnamed co-conspirators. Epstein agrees to plead guilty on 2 state charges instead. It's definitely worth noting here that the Office of Professional Responsibility found that Alexander Acosta used poor judgment when he decided not to notify the victims of his plans to give this deal to Epstein. June 2008, Epstein pleads guilty in Florida state court, solicitation of prostitution and solicitation of a minor for prostitution. He's sentenced to 18 months in jail. Justice is served. You think that's a light sentence? I've got news for you. He only served 13 months. And during those 13 months, he was actually allowed out 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Work release. They also negotiated that any deputies escorting him to his office needed to dress in business attire because otherwise that would be super embarrassing for him. A sex offender. He quietly settles all these civil lawsuits with his accusers. 2011 to 2016, this was supposed to just go away for Jeffy. Luckily it didn't. Why? Investigative journalism. Public outrage grows. January 2017, Trump is sworn in. February 2017, I told you to remember a name. Do you remember what that name was? Alexander Acosta.
It's tomorrow.
Alex Acosta as Labor Secretary. He's confirmed by the Senate in
It's
April
actually tomorrow, Brian.
This revives interest. Why? Alex Acosta was the U.S. attorney in Florida who negotiated a non-prosecution agreement with Epstein's lawyers without telling the victims. Okay, this next part gets hot, and I'm not trying to do this for free, so I'm going to make it hurt too. People are forgetting how we got here with the Epstein files, so we're going to do a full timeline. So how did we get here? To answer that, we need to take a step backwards. It was a sunny day.
Hold on. Y'all, can I get 15 likes? Yep, it's actually tomorrow. I just been celebrating for the last couple of weeks. Let me see what this one says.
So the Wall Street Journal, hardly a liberal publication, right, released this, a birthday card from Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. They didn't include the lewd drawing that Donald Trump drew for Jeffrey, but included some text. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Is this card real? Definitely. There's no way that Rupert Murdoch is going to risk another $1 billion loss in a lawsuit. Why did Rupert Murdoch, who owns the Wall Street Journal, release this? Well, you know, he's not exactly known for being a truth and justice kind of
I'm a Cancer, Leo.
Because he's trying to damage Donald
I'm on the
Trump.
cusp.
He's trying to weaken him. That's obvious.
Trying to damage
Why
him.
is he trying to do that? You can only speculate. I'll give it a go. Speculate. J.D. Vance is a lot more attractive to the radical right and Rupert Murdoch than Donald Trump. He's not a billionaire. Easier to manipulate, more reliable. Rupert Murdoch sees that MAGA, for the first time ever, is starting to fracture into 2 camps. One side says, we never really cared about this Epstein stuff. We only cared about hurting the libs, and now it looks like it's going to hurt us. Stop. We need to protect Donald Trump at all costs. And the other side, side 2, says what Epstein did was terrible, and we don't care who it exposes, liberal or not. Everyone needs to be exposed. And Murdoch's view, in my opinion, is neither of those. It's, I don't really care about Epstein, but I really want to get rid of Trump. Sooner the better. And if I can raise Vance by hurting Trump right now, I'm going to do whatever it takes. The reality is that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were like this for over a decade. He knew what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein, and he thought he was like in on a joke. He didn't care what was happening to those girls.
Happy early
Donald Trump
birthday.
should go down for this. It's wholly immoral. And all of Jeffrey Epstein's friends, they knew what he was doing.
Absolutely.
They should go down for this too. And all the girls who were harmed by this, hundreds of them, deserve justice. And I know Donald Trump has never said a word of apology toward them. Not a word. And as for
He felt entitled. He said it.
Trump right now, you know, Project 2025 and Trump have always looked Soviet-like to me. And this intrigue looks like what happened in the Soviet Union, 1980s. The White House right now is a lot like the Kremlin back then. Brezhnev was a sick man, not popular. People were trying to force him out. That's what's happening with Trump. And who replaced Brezhnev after Brezhnev died? Yuri Andropov. And Vance is, a lot like Andropov. It's time to get out the popcorn. So the Wall Street Journal hardly...
He said it's time to get out the popcorn.
Right. Release.
Hold on. He said get the popcorn. Get the popcorn.
Even though we were at odds, what we both understood is we get to 100 episodes. Even though we were at odds,
rest in peace, Malcolm Jamal Warner. Okay, let me see what I'm gonna end on, y'all. Let me find a good one to end on. I can't go over there because I'm out of juice.
Even though we were at odds, but we both.
Oh man, that was a hard hit today, y'all, with Malcolm Jamal Warner. And I'm gonna talk about the other rapper. Now I found it interesting that we had another rapper who he got life. His mama got 30 years, but guess what? He was trafficking. He was Diddy out of Atlanta. Just wasn't on such a high level, I don't think, but he was pretty up there. This Cash Out. I don't know what this guy was saying. Let me go out on Cash Out because it's just ironic that they was acting like this was the first time with Diddy. I don't know how people be forgetting, you know what I mean? Forgetting that Diddy was not the only person that was trafficking, doing all type of crazy stuff. And this guy, let me go to Seti Nash. Shout out to Seti Nash with his take on this guy. Cash Out. His mama got locked up. So his mama was KK in Ghislane. Who was the never caught this agent? Hold on. Let me go to oh yeah, he about the end of this Cash Out dude. Trump administration handling. Oh yeah, they not gonna be able to live this one down, y'all. This Epstein. And I don't know what he think he finna get. So you gonna tell us that Martin Luther King wasn't perfect? I think we kind of know that. You want to say that the I ain't gonna try to figure it out. Let me get to Seti Nash. Because this guy was doing the same thing. Pimping. Same thing with Diddy. Yeah. Same thing.
All right.
Cash Out. And then he tried to be he did the same thing Diddy did. Your Honor, I want to thank you for the way for giving me a fair chance and being fair. I mean, he did the Diddy, and he done got his mama sentenced to 30 years, and he got so many consecutive, concurrent, but he was the same as Diddy. Cash Out, indicted for ape and hookahs. Back in April, 2022. Let's listen.
Let's get y'all caught up to speed real quick with what the heck this man is accused of before people just start throwing certain things like innocent and all this crap around. So, an Atlanta rapper is currently behind bars after being indicted for and running a prostitution ring. Cash Out, whose real name is John Gibson, is best known for his 2012 single, Cashing Out. WSB reported Gibson is facing a 41-count indictment along with 5 others for running an ex-trafficking ring. The Fulton County District's Attorney's Office claims Gibson used his celebrity to lure women into the prostitution ring for a chance to do something.
He uses his celebrity for people who, same thing, who wants to advance in the industry. Same thing.
Instagram post from May 2021 features 3 women twerking with the caption, "What you gonna do for the money?" I probably should play that for y'all, but y'all, y'all be a little freaked out. Gwinnett and Fulton County police records show Gibson has been booked into jail and has been charged with aggravated sodomy or simple battery, domestic violence, prostitution of a person under 18 years old, which means a kid,
a minor,
person for ex-servitude in violation of the Georgia RICO Act. In addition to those charges, Gibson also faces 7 grand jury bench warrants, misdemeanors for pimping and pandering, 2 counts of trafficking a person for ex-servitude, willful obstruction of law enforcement officers, and aggravated assault. A record shows Gibson was originally booked by the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office on August 28th before being transported to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office on September 20th. The only post Gibson's official Instagram account has made since September 20th is a music video promotion for his freestyle, Wayne Flow, on September 28th. The Instagram account has been inactive on his stories. However, why should you live in constant fear of the fury of those who are ready to destroy you? One of the account's Instagram stories read after a report of Gibson's indictment came out, "Their fury can no longer touch you. Those who are pioneers will soon be set free and be even more prosperous." Free cash out. Throughout Gibson's social media pages are promotions for an OnlyFans account, with various women titled Pretty Girls and Long Stroke. The link to the account now shows an error message. Gibson's pinned tweet posted on March 2nd as a promotion for the page and a picture of a woman appearing to perform a X act on a man in the garage. On April 13th, his Twitter account promoted the launch of his TikTok account. If you have a lawyer, run things by your lawyer. Cash Out just crashed out, bruh. We gonna play his "I'm not sorry, I'm Jesus." Bruh, listen to what he says when he addresses the court.
Crazy.
Before he gets sentenced. When I tell you, y'all gonna be like, "Ain't no way in hell he just said that."
Shout out to
yes, the hell
shout
he
out,
did.
yeah. Y'all ready for this?
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning. I want to start out by thanking you for giving us a fair trial. I want to thank the jurors for the amount of time that they put in to judge this trial. This time being on this trial, I was able to see how the jurors are put in a tough position to, sit there and judge someone's life.
Can y'all hear this clown?
And, it's a hard decision, and I feel like they made the wrong judgment. I've done things in my life. I'm not perfect. But the things I've been accused of, I know that I haven't done those things. I know it's typical for a person to come up here and, show remorse to, crimes that they have done, but I can only show remorse to the people that I know that was in this trial, which is Kiara Adams, Deanna Sanders, and Jasmine Brown. Not remorse on behalf of like I did anything to them, because if you know me, and people who really know me know that I wouldn't force anybody to do anything.
Okay, Diddy.
I met women, I dated women who were doing escort or whatever, however people want to look at it from a moral standpoint, but who was doing these things as a grown woman.
It's illegal.
I dealt with grown women. Nothing was forced. Nothing was coerced or anything of that nature. If you notice, before this trial, no woman can say anything about me before this trial. If you notice, before this indictment, no woman can say anything about me before this indictment. I get the situations that people are put in when they're faced with a certain type of crime or a certain type of time,
Diddy.
lead into this situation to put the blame on someone, or to put the blame on Cash Out, or to put the blame on someone who's at the top.
Oh, he at the top.
I didn't really fault them for their decision. I didn't fault Deanna Sanders for making her decision during the profit. She just had a child. Mind you, she was just on video call with me while being incarcerated. I don't fault Kiara Adams for doing the things she did with her proffer, because mind you, she was facing a certain amount of time handling her probation in different cases that she's on. I don't fault people for making accusations, because I'm a man that that typically let women leave on their own behalf. Never held them in prison or held them in slavery or said, you can't leave me or you can't do this. Every woman you've seen come on this stand showed you that they left and came back willingly on their own. What I mean by that, they left on their own and they came back willingly on their own. During this trial, I was able to see, you know, how valuable life is and how valuable the people that you hang around or the people that you even date or the people that you even know, how valuable it is to judge their character. Sometimes I let people stay around who I knew was going to affect a situation that I had going on. So I don't, and for the people who came to this trial that I never met a day in my life, never had any contact with them, never had a text message with them, never had an interaction with them, don't even know where most of these stories came from, is baffling. Never forced a woman to commit a sexual act. Never, I've been traveling all around the world from here to Dubai, and you would never hear a woman say that I forced them to do anything sexual or commit a rape with anybody. I don't hang around people that do things of that nature. I feel like, and somebody asked me this the other day, it was like, every time I see your head high, you always smiling, because when you have that confidence, it takes me back to the Bible. When you have that confidence and you know you can be falsely accused of things, Jesus was falsely accused, a lot of the prophets were falsely accused.
Go back to the Bible.
You don't have that emotion like you've done something. You know,
so now he's Jesus.
With my head high, or if you see me smiling, it's because I know
now he Jesus. You hear this clown? He Jesus.
Christ, the Most High, will always give you the actual judgment.
He Jesus.
So, I really thank you for providing us a fair trial. Just me getting to know
he Jesus, y'all.
I was like, you know, she's just a judge. But when you see 12 people in that panel and you know, have them, you know, judge our lives and, you know, put them in a position to judge our lives, you know, it takes you back to, once again, the Bible, when people had to judge these prophets' lives. And I say, if you know me, you actually know me. There's plenty of people that know me in this world. There's plenty of people that know me in this jail. There's plenty of people that know me where I'm from. Like I said, once again, I'm not perfect. I come from certain areas. I come from, you know, certain environments. I come from doing things in my past life before the music. But I'm here to tell you that if you sat in this trial and you paid attention to this trial, before these, no woman could ever say, I've done those things to them. Before these dates, you can go on my Instagram and see these women enjoying themselves, having their own things, living their own life. Before these dates, I can say you had these women that never had anything to say about me before this indictment, before the RICO. You had these women actually talking to me while I was incarcerated. I've been incarcerated for 4 years, and these women are interacting with me. These women who took the stand and supposedly scared of me or monsters, or took these, I'm a monster, or took these proffers. This wasn't the case before they was indicted. So from my perspective, I feel like some people can get bullied into a situation that they really don't really want to be. And I'm sitting here just holding my head high and just, you know, feeling that one day the truth will come out. One day the truth will come out on my situation. One day the truth will come out on this rape allegation, that these things never happen. And when you see a person get up on that stand and put their hand on the Bible and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, that means you have to be perfect like you're Jesus. You have to be perfect on that stand. You can't show a flaw. And that's a tough one. It's a tough one for me because I had flaws in my life. So you have to tell the complete truth on that stand. And I got up there and see people put their hand on that Bible and not tell the complete truth. And that's baffling. But at the end of the day, I put my trust in the Most High. I put my trust in the universe to bring out the truth. To bring out the truth of these people who made these allegations. To me, it's like you have no heart. You have no heart. And I know people want me to stay in line or walk a toe, but when you're speaking something truthfully and you're speaking from the heart and you know that this is not your character, something must be said. And I just wanted to address the court and give my perspective on the things that I felt during this trial and the judgment that I felt that the jurors gave us was not the correct judgment. And it will show. Thank you.
All right. All right, Mr. Matthews?
He put it on Jesus.
So then that forces the judge to go, Jesus, you say.
What would Jesus do?
Jesus, you say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he got the same fate Jesus Christ got. Jesus Christ got sent to life. He getting sent to life. Beam me up, Scotty.
He said Jesus. I mean, he really thought he was that slick that he gonna play with Jesus. This is a cold-blooded narcissist right here, baby.
You ready? Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, during the course of this trial, the court heard and viewed evidence demonstrating the very worst of human behavior toward other human beings. The jury verdict in this case reflects the state had its burden in proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the diabolical conduct of the defendants occurred. The sentencing to be meted out by this court will be responsive to that. Mr. John Michael Hakeem Gibson, would you please stand?
He said his whole name.
On count one, violation of the Georgia RICO Act, 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 10. On count 10, rape. Life in confinement. Count 12, aggravated sodomy. Life in confinement to run concurrent with count 10. Count 22, trafficking a person for sexual servitude. 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 1.
He ain't never getting out.
Trafficking a person for sexual servitude. 20 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 22. Count 24 on the lesser included offense of battery. 12 months to serve in confinement to run concurrent with count 10. Count 25, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. 5 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 23. Count 26, pimping. 12 months to serve in confinement to run concurrent
pimping
with count 10. Count 27, pandering. 12 months to serve in confinement to run concurrent with count 10. Count 28, keeping a place of prostitution. 12 months
oh, he had a prostitution house.
To run concurrent with count 10. Count 29, willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. 12 months to serve in confinement to run concurrent with count 10. Count 30, simple battery, merges into count 24, battery. Count 45, possession of prohibited items by an inmate. 5 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive with count 25. Conditions of this sentence: no contact with any of the victims named in the indictment, to include Diamond Irvin or their families.
He been threatening folks from jail, just like Diddy.
You are to register as a sex offender. You are to stay away from 737.
She's saying that like he getting out of jail.
You are to stay away from the Mezzo condominium, 2171 Peachtree. You are to stay away from the St. George's Commons address, and you are to stay away from the Fulton Industrial Boulevard corridor.
Like he getting out.
You may be seated. All right, Ms. Smith and counsel, please.
Now he done got his mama in this mess.
As to count 1, violation of the Georgia RICO Act, 20 years to serve in confinement. Count 37, trafficking a person for sexual servitude, 10 years to serve in confinement to run consecutive to count One,
Ain't that crazy?
you're to have no contact with any of the victims, including Diamond Irving, named in this indictment, or their families. You are to register as a sex offender. You are to stay away from 737 Alfred Road, the Mezzo at 2171 Peachtree Road.
Diddy should have to
The
register
address
as
is
well.
St. George's Commons, 9340. And the FIB, Fulton Industrial Boulevard corridor. You may be seated.
For those who don't understand, because I didn't either, he was offered 25 years and turned it down. 25. Good number. My little brother's favorite number. He was offered 25 years and said, "Nah, I'ma take that to mother."
People need to stop thinking just because y'all were grown and just so you can say that y'all was willing, consenting adults, if it's still an illegal act, whether y'all agreed to break the law or not, it's still illegal. Dumbass.
Trial. And lo and behold, that's exactly what he did. And lost. The big one. The elbow. Now, I ain't gonna hold you. I thought possibly as I was looking at it today, I'm thinking like, man, she probably gonna give him like 30. Never did I think life. His mama got 30, so our title was right there. But it's one of those things where I don't think he understood. Bruh, you not YSL, YFN, none of that. And this ain't the same stuff. You see, one of the things about the YSL trial and all this stuff, it was a bunch of selfish individuals. It was a bunch of people running around doing stuff for themselves. They couldn't prove that this was together. Your mama, you, your cousin, y'all was all in on it. And then when you have cooperating witnesses that say he stuffed bottles up my butt, he beat me, he whooped on me, and all of these things, it's like, bruh, it don't matter what she lied about. It don't matter she was a hoe when she met you.
Don't.
I just want people to understand this, bruh. The game is designed for people with 9 to 5s, 8 to 4s, 7 to 3s, 6 to 2s. The game is designed for them. You get a promise of old age as long as you put in the Social Security, and if you're smart enough, pay into at least 2 IRAs. Work 30 to 40 years and live the rest of your life being a productive citizen, and we'll give you your weekends. The stuff that he did, bro, in what world did he believe that this stuff was just going to work throughout the years? Eventually, you get caught. He's done this stuff for over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I think life is too harsh? Yeah. Do I think he's going to appeal it and possibly get it knocked down? Possibly.
He ain't going nowhere.
But, bro, your mama got a 30 ball. You'll never see your mother in the physical ever again.
Okay, good people. I'm finna go. Y'all have a good one. See y'all tomorrow. Peace. Bye, 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 bye. Yeah, I know you see. He thought he was God all by himself. YSL attorney arrested on 22 counts. What?